I suspect that a female classmate in my class has been reborn, because she always manages to perfectly intercept all my highlight moments. During freshman military training, I bought water for everyone out of my own pocket. She volunteered to help distribute it, and when faced with everyone's thanks, she shamelessly said to them, "It's okay, everyone has worked hard, this is what I should do. During the upcoming military training, I'll cover all the water for everyone." The crowd cheered, but I was dumbfounded, having just returned from the restroom, but there was no way I was going to be the sucker. Since she wanted to steal the spotlight, I'd let her have all the glory she wanted. So the next day, I decisively stopped buying water for everyone. When she asked me where the water I bought for everyone was, I looked completely clueless. Water? What water? Wasn't it you who said yesterday that you'd cover all the water for everyone during military training? Upon hearing my words, Zhou Li's expression cracked open. She opened her mouth, and the sweat on her forehead, as big as beans, was unclear whether it was from the heat or nervousness. As if afraid of being overheard, she lowered her voice and squeezed out a sentence from her throat. "But yesterday we agreed, you buy the drinks for everyone, and I'll be in charge of handing them out. You also know that the water yesterday was bought by me." Seeing her acting so entitled, still trying to fool me like I'm an idiot, I simply spoke up directly. "Then why did you say you'd cover everyone's water for the entire military training period? What are you trying to do, using my water to make yourself look generous in front of everyone? You're like that Dalmatian, your heart is full of spots, all black." A few classmates nearby had already turned to look. Zhou Li's face flushed red, her lips trembling slightly as she still tried to explain. I just said it offhand. How was I supposed to know everyone would misunderstand? That's your own business. I rolled my eyes. I guess according to her original plan, I was supposed to happily pay up, and she was supposed to happily take the credit. Clear division of labor, but that was just what she thought. Anyway, you've already said it, and everyone heard you. There's no point in saying so much now. As I spoke, I deliberately raised my tone so that all the classmates around could hear. Everyone has been training for so long. Zhou Li, what about the water? You promised to treat everyone to yesterday. Don't tell me you're having second thoughts. How could that be? It seemed she hadn't expected me to suddenly raise my voice, and Zhou Li panicked instantly, as more and more eyes turned toward her. Zhou Li shot me a fierce glare, then clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, and turned around, saying, "I'll go buy water for everyone right now." I watched her stiff, retreating figure and smiled. What a joke. I'm not bragging, but after Zhuge Liang borrowed arrows with straw boats, the holes in those boats probably weren't as numerous as the tricks up my sleeve. Trying to spend my money to build up her own reputation. Dream on, too, carrying it from the school gate convenience store to the playground in the scorching heat, at least a kilometer away. Actually, the vast majority of classes would just pay the convenience store owner an extra 5 yuan for delivery, so they'd bring the water over. But to save that $5 delivery fee, Zhou Li simply carried 2 cases of water herself, drenched in sweat. Even though she was exhausted, she still didn't choose to have someone else distribute the water or let everyone grab it themselves. Instead, almost eagerly, she handed each bottle of water to everyone, basking in the praise they showered on her. My spot was at the edge of the shade, and by the time she walked over, the water crate was already empty. She glanced at me but said nothing. I knew she had deliberately left out my bottle. I didn't expect her to bring me water anyway, so I unscrewed the cap of the bottle I hadn't finished that morning and took a sip. For 2 straight days, she went to buy water almost every time herself, then, drenched in sweat, personally handed it out to everyone. This look instantly won everyone's favor. Of course, every time she would skip me, or when she came in front of me, she would say with a face full of apology in front of everyone, "I'm sorry, I think I bought one less bottle. I'll definitely bring it tomorrow." Watching her back, the uncomfortable feeling inside me began to rise. I don't actually need that bottle of water from her. It's just 2.5 yuan. Something anyone can afford, but she's been walking around me for 3 days straight, and every time she hands out water, she deliberately skips me. This can no longer be called forgetting, this is purely targeting me. Now she's won over almost the entire class and has subtly gained some so-called influence in the classroom. 3 strikes and you're out. Missing out on water once, twice, or even 3 times might not be a big deal, but 4 times, 5 times, and over time, someone will eventually notice that she's been skipping me. If it ever comes back to her, a single word from her could easily get me isolated by the whole class. There's no way I'm letting that happen. So on the 4th day, when Zhou Li passed by me handing out water as usual, I directly called out to her, "Zhou Li, didn't you say you'd cover water for the entire class during military training, then why is it that for 4 days straight, everyone has water except me? Have I offended you in some way, or are you deliberately targeting me? This blunt questioning instantly drew the attention of the entire class. The already scorching weather became even more stifling and sticky at this moment. The cicadas on the trees chirped incessantly, making the silence even more conspicuous, seemingly not expecting me to be so blunt in exposing this matter. Zhou Li's face flushed from the base of her neck to the tips of her ears. Her lips trembled several times, but not a single word came out. Someone nearby whispered, "True, it does seem like she always skips Lin Zhaoyang. I noticed too, but I never dared to ask. I thought maybe they had some personal grudge." Zhou Li stood there, her fingers gripping the cardboard box, turning white, stammering before finally managing to explain, "Sorry, every time I buy water, I forget to count myself." "So, is that so?" I pretended to look relieved and said magnanimously, "I thought you were deliberately leaving me out every time. We haven't known each other for long, and I was worried that I might have accidentally offended you at some point, and you'd be too embarrassed to tell me, so I thought you were deliberately taking your anger out on me by buying water. If that's not the case, then good. Just remember not to forget about me tomorrow, okay?" With that, I playfully winked at her. Everyone else also breathed a sigh of relief, saying that Zhou Li definitely didn't mean it, and started speaking up for her. At that moment, squad leader Chen Yu walked up to me with his own water bottle, his ears slightly red. "Lin Zhaoyang, I haven't drunk from this bottle yet. If you don't mind, you can have mine." I paused for a moment, looked at him, took the water, and said thank you. He nodded and returned to his seat. I unscrewed the cap and took a sip, catching Zhou Li in my peripheral vision. At that moment, she was staring at Chen Yu's back, then reluctantly turned her head to glance at me. I immediately caught the fleeting emotion in her eyes, startling me so much that my eyes widened. It was hatred, glaring hatred. That hatred was so heavy it didn't seem like something someone who had only known her for a few days should possess. Her fingers, gripping the edge of the empty suitcase, turned white at the knuckles, her lips pressed into a thin line, and her chest rose and fell several times before she managed to suppress her emotions. Then she abruptly turned and walked away. I can probably guess that Zhou Li likes Chen Yu. After all, these past few days, Zhou Li has always been the last to bring water to Chen Yu, lingering a little longer in front of him and chatting a few more sentences each time. But Chen Yu clearly has feelings for me, so that's why. But does liking Chen Yu warrant looking at me with that kind of expression? I suppressed the doubts in my heart and stopped thinking about it. That evening, I returned to the dormitory. After taking a shower, I passed by the corner of the hallway and saw Zhou Li on the phone. Her voice was very low, but the hallway was quiet at night, so a few words still drifted over. "Mom, transfer me another 500. Yeah, this month. I'm going to buy water for everyone during military training." I stopped in my tracks and leaned against the wall without moving. Whatever was said on the other end of the call, Zhou Li's voice suddenly turned tearful. "Then what do you want me to do? I already said it on the first day. The whole class heard it, and now you want me to take it back. How am I supposed to face the class then?" "I don't care." I silently slipped back into the dormitory, lay down on the bed, and stared at the ceiling, unable to figure it out no matter how hard I tried. It seemed that Zhou Li's family wasn't well off. If that was the case, then why was she putting on a front and buying water for the whole class, just to show off? I can't understand it. But that uneasy feeling in my heart surfaced again. The next day, Zhou Li handed out water to the classmates as usual, but this time, she didn't skip me. She walked up to me with a bottle of water, plopped it down beside me with a thud, not exactly gently. I looked down at the bottle of water but didn't touch it. After all the water had been handed out, she sat down next to me, casually twisting open the bottle in her hand as she spoke, seemingly offhand. Some people come from such wealthy families, yet they don't even think about contributing to the class. They just take advantage of others every day. How shameless. I frowned, catching the pointed meaning behind her words, most likely aimed at me, so I directly asked her, "Excuse me, are you talking about me?" She choked for a moment, clearly not expecting me to respond directly, and turned her head to mutter something. Some people know very well what they've done. "She's talking about me." I glanced around at my classmates, their faces full of expressions that said they were waiting for a show. I twirled her bottle of water in my hand, then finally fixed my gaze back on her face and spoke with utmost seriousness. "It's true that my family isn't poor, I won't deny that, but the money I spend is all hard-earned by my parents, not my own, so I can't bring myself to use their money to buy myself a reputation." I lifted her bottle of water and shook it, You say I'm taking advantage of you, but if I remember correctly, today is the first time I've ever drunk water you bought. In the past 4 days, you haven't sent me a single bottle, and now, just this one bottle is enough for you to bring up my family and claim I'm taking advantage of you. With that, I let out a light laugh, stood up, and placed the water back into the box by her feet in front of everyone. If that's the case, then your bargain is far too valuable for me to take advantage of. I think any classmate whose family situation is even slightly better than yours probably wouldn't be able to take advantage of it either. The entire room fell silent, as if someone had pressed the pause button. A few classmates had very unpleasant expressions on their faces. Yes, I didn't drink a single drop of her water for the first 4 days. The ones who actually drank for 4 or 5 days were them. That remark she just made about taking advantage for free was clearly aimed at me. But wasn't she indirectly cursing them? As if suddenly realizing this, Zhou Li panicked instantly. No, that's not it. That's not what I meant. But it was already too late. I destroyed the good impression she had spent 5 days building with just a few words. A guy suddenly slammed his water bottle heavily into the box, his tone furious. Damn, it's just a few bottles of water. Who are you being sarcastic at? Who do you think can't afford it? Yeah, if you don't have money, don't pretend to be generous. And after pretending, you start making snide remarks. Who are you trying to disgust? I'm not drinking this water anymore, and I don't want any from now on. Whoever wants to drink it can have it. One by one, the water bottles were thrown back into the box. Zhou Li panicked and reached out to stop them. That's not what I meant, really, don't misunderstand. No one listened to her, but at that very moment, Chen Yu walked over. He frowned at Zhou Li, his tone carrying an irrepressible disappointment. Zhou Li, I used to think that when Zhao Yang said you were targeting her, she was overthinking it, but now it seems that many feelings don't come out of nowhere. What you just said was really unpleasant. I think you should apologize to Zhao Yang. Upon hearing the boy she liked say such things to her, Zhou Li's eyes instantly reddened. Why should I apologize? What did I do wrong? I bought water for everyone, and that's a mistake. She gritted her teeth, tears welling up in her eyes. If you're not willing to accept my goodwill, then give me back the money I spent on buying water these past few days, not a single cent less, and you have to include the delivery fee too. The moment these words were spoken, the air fell silent for a moment, then suddenly exploded. What the hell, you have the nerve to ask for a delivery fee? Weren't you the one crying and begging to buy it? Who asked you? Fine, fine, I'll pay you back. It's just a few bottles of water, isn't it? A girl, with a face full of speechless disgust, immediately pulled out her phone. 4 bottles of water. $2 each, let's round it up to 10 and I'll transfer it to you. Keep the change as a tip. Yours has been transferred too, and me. The clinking and clattering sounds of transfer notifications rose and fell one after another. Chen Yu also took out his phone, tapped a few times, and looked up at her. I've transferred mine to you too. You don't have to buy me water anymore. Zhou Li stared at the transfer record that popped up on the screen, her entire body feeling as if all strength had been drained from her. Frozen stiff and motionless in place, she opened her mouth as if to say something, but only a short, breathy sound squeezed out of her throat. She wanted everyone to be grateful to her, wanted Chen Yu to see her good side, but now, the way everyone looked at her was even colder than before. Finally, someone shouted, break it up, time to rest, and the crowd slowly dispersed. Zhou Li stood alone among the water bottles that had been thrown back into the boxes, her lips trembling as tears finally fell. Not until the morning training ended did I pack up my things and head out of the playground. Suddenly, someone slammed into my shoulder from behind, nearly causing me to stumble and lose my balance. Zhou Li brushed past me, her eyes red as she turned back to glare at me. Are you happy now? It's all because of you. You've made everyone dislike me just like before. I rubbed my sore shoulder, furrowing my brow, finding the other person's words utterly baffling. Before? What before? We've only known each other for a week. Where does this before come from? I'm just stating the facts. It's you who speaks without thinking. I walked up to her and stared into her eyes. But I really don't understand. I didn't know you before school started, so why are you targeting me like this? Zhou Li's lips trembled, as if someone had stepped on a sore spot, and she blurted out, how could you not have offended me, if you hadn't been stealing the spotlight everywhere? How could I have? As if realizing she had said something she shouldn't have, she abruptly bit her tongue. I caught the abrupt halt in her words, and my eyes narrowed. Seeing this, she stepped back and blurted out in panic, anyway, I just can't stand you. Just wait, I won't let you get away with it. With that, she turned and ran off, her retreating figure flustered and disheveled. It's inexplicable. 3. In the following week, Jolie subtly began to feel isolated, although she later apologized to everyone. They didn't seem to want to hold it against her too much, yet they still harbored a grudge. The 2-week military training finally came to an end, and everyone was excitedly thanking their lucky stars in the group chat. At that moment, someone suggested that since the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday was coming up, they should take a day to relax together. The proposal was immediately met with unanimous approval. After all, they were all students, at an age that loves to have fun. So everyone immediately started discussing where to go in the group chat. The amusement park was too hot and too big, with too many thrilling rides that weren't suitable for relaxation. The resort is too expensive and too far for students to afford. After thinking it over, only one option remained: a picnic. I know there's a nice scenic spot nearby for a picnic where we can rent barbecue grills, but we'll need to buy the ingredients ourselves. A picnic sounds great. We can buy the food and grill it ourselves. When we get tired of eating, we can just find a patch of grass, lay down a blanket, and lie down. Since autumn is here, it'll surely be pleasant and cool. We still have a few tents at home. I'll ask my dad to bring them over when the time comes. We can also play some werewolf card games or something. We have some at home too. Then it's settled. Once the destination was decided, the next step was to finalize the division of labor and costs for buying ingredients. Vegetables and such were easy to agree on, but after much discussion, everyone clamored for meat. A class of 35 people, most of them boys, naturally requires a considerable amount of meat, but the students' budgets are naturally limited, and everyone started struggling with how much each person should chip in. As it happens, my family runs a meat business, and I can guarantee that whatever meat I source from them will be at the most favorable price. Of course, I could also get meat from home for them for free, since meat is the last thing my family lacks, but providing free meat is naturally not something that can be done. After all, I am well aware that doing this once will lead to a second time. There's no way there will only be this one event in 4 years of college. Does that mean I'd have to provide free ingredients every single time? Actually, it's not impossible, but I just don't want to, so I spoke up. I have a way to help everyone buy some meat at a discount, at least 50% off. If you trust me, just leave all the food shopping to me. Besides pork and beef, I can also order 2 whole roasted lambs for everyone. They'll be roasted and delivered to us. With that in mind, plus other expenses, each person should only need to pay about 100. You mean for just 100 per person, we can have pork, beef, and even a whole roasted lamb? Sure enough, as soon as I sent the message, the group was instantly stunned. Oh my god. Last time I went with my family to eat roasted whole lamb, it cost us 1,500, 2 roasted lambs. The bigger ones are at least 3,000, not to mention the beef. Even if it's a buffet, it's over 100 per person. Say no more. Even Guan Yu might not be as righteous as you, second brother. Please accept my bow of respect. As she spoke, the group started sending emojis of people kneeling and worshipping. The girls in the dormitory also shouted excitedly, "Long live Zhaoyang, I don't care about other meats, having a whole roasted lamb is just too cool." I lay on the bed laughing. Of course, what I said about a 50% discount was a lie. 2 larger roasted whole lambs, plus meat and everything else for the whole class. Even with a 50% discount, 100 per person wouldn't be nearly enough. Those 2 roasted whole lambs were sponsored by me, just hoping that everyone could have a great time at their first college gathering. The atmosphere in the group chat couldn't be better at this moment, but just as everyone was collectively admiring me, Jolie suddenly sent a message in the group, breaking the mood. What do you mean by 100? Collecting 100 in class fees per person? Lin Zhaoyang, are you robbing us? How dare you actually charge that? Don't think I don't know. Your family runs a meat processing plant. Many of the country's large meat processing factories source their supplies from your family. Doesn't your family boast on TV about how many source ranches you have? If you wanted to get meat from your own factory, with your status as the young lady, you wouldn't need to spend a dime. And what's this about a 50% discount? I think you're just trying to make money off everyone. What a capitalist attitude. All you know is to squeeze the common people. Disgusting. For as soon as she said that, the lively atmosphere in the group instantly fell silent. I was also taken aback by these messages. No, how did she know that my family runs a meat processing plant? I don't think I've ever told anyone about my family situation. I've never appeared in any external interviews or public events related to my family, so even a private investigation couldn't dig up that much detail. I'm starting to find Jolie a bit terrifying. First, she targeted me for no reason, knowing I was wealthy before I ever revealed my family background, and now, knowing the specifics of my family's business, combined with what she said before, this is no longer something that can be described as merely hair-raising. Someone in the group sent a message, asking if it was true, was my family really running a meat processing plant? I knew it was pointless to deny it at this point, so I answered with a yes. Seeing this, Jolie immediately continued, "See, I told you she was fooling you, she's been planning to swindle your money all along, and there you were, cheering and thinking she was so great. If she really had good intentions and wanted to help everyone, why didn't she just provide the ingredients for free? She just wants to rip everyone off. There are 35 people in the class, and if each person pays 100, that's 3,500, she wants to pocket such a huge sum, then bring out some free meat from home to fool everyone." A long voice message was sent to the group chat. Someone in the dormitory played it out loud. Before I could even get angry after hearing what was said, Jiang Qing had already started cursing. Damn, is Jolie out of her mind? Exactly. Does she think everyone is addicted to taking advantage? Even if the Zhao family is rich, that's their money. How can she be so brazen as to say she should get free meat from home for everyone to eat? People in the dorm began to chime in one after another, but the direction of the group chat had already turned chaotic. Seriously, Lin Zhaoyang, is it true that your family runs a meat processing plant? If that's true, then why bother collecting money? Just bring some random meat from your place. You wouldn't be stingy about it, would you? Come on, we're all classmates here, you should at least let us get a little advantage. As more and more classmates chimed in with these words, the girls in the dormitory got angry and started to fire back. What gives you the right? You just say whatever comes to mind. You've got some nerve. Exactly. It's not like their family's money just blows in with the wind. You can't just demand it like that. I wasn't about to let them off easy, so I directly mentioned Jolie in the group chat. At Jolie, could you please stop having such a strong possessiveness over other people's property? Since the wealthy woman's identity had already been exposed, and she claimed she loved being in the spotlight, I might as well go all out and put on a big show for her. With that in mind, I opened my mobile banking app, took a screenshot of my balance, and posted it in the group chat. In your eyes, 3,000 yuan might seem like a lot, but to me, 3,000 isn't even enough to cover the spare change in my bank account. Of course, I could also bring meat from home for everyone for free, but do you think money grows on trees in my family? The businesses and assets in my family, I have the right to use them, but I don't have the authority to dispose of them. Bringing meat is certainly no big deal, but helping everyone for free is neither my obligation nor my duty. You have no right to point fingers at what I do. I'm really unhappy with your questioning of me just now. So the 50% off meat is off the table too. I'm retracting my offer to cover everyone's ingredients. I won't be participating in this camping trip. Please sort it out yourselves. After sending that message, I put down my phone and felt absolutely amazing. The dormitory was silent for a few seconds, then Jiang Qing whispered, "Damn, Zhaoyang, you look stunning." Anyone could tell that I was genuinely angry this time. The group chat instantly fell into dead silence. After about half a minute, someone finally sent the first message. Come on, everyone was just joking around. Who doesn't want to spend less money, miss? Don't be mad. Then the second and third comments followed one after another. That's not what we meant. No one was trying to take advantage. Don't misunderstand. They already said it was half off. 3,000 yuan was never enough to buy both sheep and meat. How can some people have the nerve to ask for it for free? Just opening your mouth and asking for freebies. You've got some nerve. I watched the screen in silence. On the surface, they said, "Don't get upset," but between the lines, it was all, "Don't actually quit." People's faces change faster than flipping a book. I've seen plenty of that since I was a kid. Seeing that I still hadn't responded, the group chat fell silent again. Then someone timidly asked, "So what do we do now? What can $100 even get us? 3,000 yuan isn't even enough to buy meat for the whole class, and we haven't even factored in snacks, drinks, and vegetables yet. My roast whole lamb, just gone like that." At Jolie, it's all your fault. If you love taking advantage of others, don't drag the whole class into it. Okay, I'm seriously done. Last time it was the same with buying drinks, and now you're pulling another stunt. How did I end up in the same class as you? Seeing the spearhead turning toward her again, Jolie finally spoke up. "Sorry everyone, I was just contacting the owner of a supply chain company. My uncle runs a buffet restaurant. When he heard I was helping the class buy ingredients for the picnic, he said he could give me meat from his shop. Although it's all frozen, the dates are definitely fresh, and the taste isn't much different from fresh meat. if you trust me, $50 per person is enough. There'll be plenty of pork, beef, and lamb. We can even add shrimp and squid. The variety is definitely enough. I frowned when I saw these words, 50 yuan per person. 35 people in total adds up to 1,750. Even if all of it were used to buy meat, you couldn't get enough to feed 35 people at the wholesale market, let alone include pork, beef, lamb, and seafood unless she's putting in her own money. Where would all this come from? What's she after? As expected, someone in the group questioned, $50 for pork, beef, lamb, and seafood. That's cheaper than a lot of buffets. Jolie immediately posted a screenshot of a chat. The contact was labeled Uncle, and the message roughly said, "For my niece's sake, I'll give it to you at cost price. Consider it supporting the students," my uncle said. For my sake, he's giving it to us below cost price. Our family isn't like some people, who clearly have money at home but are unwilling to contribute to the class. There are still 4 years ahead. Can the bond of classmates really be measured by a few bucks? As soon as she said this, the attitudes of those in the group who had been complaining about her just moments ago shifted again. Since it's come to this, let Jolie handle it. I'll trust her one more time. For $50, you get pork, beef, lamb, and seafood, everything. Even the delivery guy praised how well it was packed. What more could you ask for? The buffet's goods can't be bad. I'll transfer the money now. Thanks for your help. At Jolie, everyone, afraid of losing this rare bargain, started transferring money to her in the group chat. Jolie sent 3, "Thank you all for your trust," emojis in a row. Even through the screen, I could imagine her smug expression right now. 5, but I'm still curious, with a budget of 50 yuan per meal, can the stuff she got even be edible? Whatever, I've already said I'm not joining this picnic. It's not just me, the 3 girls in my dorm aren't participating either. Because of this, in the following days, Jolie kept hanging around us quite a bit. Every time we meet, she deliberately raises her voice to chat with the people around her about purchasing. My uncle said that batch of meat just arrived the day before yesterday. It's very fresh. He said he saved the biggest prawns for me. Every single one of them is lively and jumping. As she says this, her eyes dart toward me, as if afraid I might not see or hear. After class that day, she deliberately walked over and spoke to Jiang Qing and the others right in front of me. Seriously, you guys aren't going? I even had my uncle prepare some crawfish for us, already cooked, 2 big bowls full. If you miss out this time, there won't be another chance. Jiang Qing rolled her eyes and ignored her, so she sighed. Lin Zhaoyang, this spoiled rich girl, has been pampered her whole life and looks down on roughing it with us common folks. That's one thing, but are you guys going to be just as antisocial as her? I get it, it's just because she's rich, so you want to suck up to her and kiss her ass. But you've all seen how stingy she is. She won't even contribute to something as trivial as a picnic. If you're hoping to get any benefits out of her, you're probably just drawing water with a basket. The 2 roommates beside me were fuming, but I held them back, watching Jolie's smug look, as if she had stolen the spotlight. I couldn't help but find it amusing. I've known since I was a child that stealing the spotlight is something only fools do. If it weren't for the so-called benefits, no one would be willing to stick their neck out. Everyone only cares about what immediate gains they can obtain, and their flattery is merely for the potential benefits they might reap from it. Once the other party realizes that the person they are flattering can no longer bring them certain help or benefits, and may even cause them to suffer losses or harm as a result, then the one being flattered will surely fall hard and get badly hurt. Unfortunately, some people seem unaware of this truth. If you love contributing so much, why don't you provide ingredients for everyone for free? Upon hearing this, Jolie's expression froze. Seeing this, I continued, besides, you also said that we'll be spending 4 years together in the future. This definitely won't be the only event. Next time, we can all participate together. Isn't that the same? Besides, when the class monitor organized the activity, it was clearly stated that everyone's participation was entirely voluntary. We have our own plans, so we won't be joining everyone this time. With that, I pulled Jiang Qing and the others to leave, but unexpectedly, Zhou Li's eyes suddenly turned red. Lin Zhaoyang, tell me the truth, is the reason you're not joining this activity because you have other plans, or because you have a problem with me? Is it just because I'm in charge of the main shopping for this picnic that you don't trust me? Seeing the other party start playing the victim and showing weakness, I couldn't help but take a proper look at her. Oh, there's actually a second level. It seems the difficulty has increased, but, using my own tricks against me, since you already know. Why do you still ask? Sorry, I blurted out the answer to pass the level in just 2 seconds. Why don't you give it a try too? Jolie was taken aback, as if she hadn't expected me to be so direct, putting my attitude toward her on full display without any hesitation. Besides, it was clearly you who took a dislike to me first, right? Everyone saw how blatantly you targeted me during military training. A few days ago, you publicly questioned me in the group, practically shoving the words rich and heartless in my face. I'm not some saint without a temper. After all that, you actually expect me to give you a friendly face? You're deliberately putting on a pitiful act here, just trying to play the victim to force my hand. Sorry, I'm not taking the bait. Your acting is terrible too, whether you say I hate you or I'm targeting you. The bottom line is I simply don't trust you as a person, including the ingredients you purchase. At a price of $50, you can't even get pork, beef, lamb, or seafood at a buffet. I don't believe you can buy any decent meat at that price. Don't say I didn't warn you. If you want to steal the spotlight, that's your own business, but don't drag others down with you. If something goes wrong because of this, you won't be able to bear the responsibility. Jolie's face had turned from pale to green, and from green to purple. She had probably prepared a whole script in her mind, already setting the stage for her act, but who would have thought that I wouldn't even step onto the stage? Instead, I just flipped the whole thing over for her. The few classmates around looked at each other, their expressions varying. Some were pondering over what I had said, while others bowed their heads and swiped on their phones, pretending not to hear. Chinyu, the class monitor, walked over from the side, furrowed his brow as he glanced at Jolie, then looked at me. All right, stop arguing. Xiaoyang makes a good point. This event was always voluntary. If you don't want to go, there's no need to force it. There's nothing more to say. A fair statement, but to Jolie's ears, these words felt like a knife stabbed into her heart. She spun around abruptly, pointing at Chinyu, her voice sharp and distorted. Monitor, why are you taking her side too? Ever since military training, you've been favoring her in every way. I've finally figured it out. Do you think she's rich and want to suck up to her? Chinyu's face instantly darkened. Poor me. I always thought you were just blinded and couldn't see people clearly. Jolie grew more agitated as she spoke, her eyes reddening alarmingly, tears welling up in her eyes. I should have seen it long ago. You're just like them, all fawning over her and sinking to the same low. Jolie, Chinyu's voice turned cold. He was usually good-tempered, but now he was trembling with anger. What nonsense are you talking about? I was just speaking fairly. Which eye of yours saw me sucking up to Lin Xiaoyang? Do you think everyone's a fool? Can't they see that you were the one stirring up trouble from the start? If you can't even take half a word of truth, then I can only say you're really off-putting. I'm not going to this event either. Chinyu finished speaking and turned to leave. Jolie was completely panicked at this point, realizing how harsh her words had just been. She immediately chased after Chinyu, and as she passed by me, she gritted her teeth and threw out a line. Just wait and see. Watch me make sure everyone eats well and gets full with just $50. I told you, this time I won't let you steal my thunder. The sound of footsteps faded away. Jiang Qing leaned in, making a retching expression. Is she out of her mind? I rolled my eyes. Who knows? 6. The outdoor barbecue was scheduled for the day before the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday. The group chat started buzzing from 10 o'clock. Some said they had already arrived, others asked if the grill had been rented, and a few joked about saving more meat so the guys wouldn't snatch it all. I scrolled through the messages without saying a word. Just as I was about to lock the screen, Jolie's photo popped up. Bowls of meat were neatly arranged on a table covered with plastic cloth. Pork, beef, and lamb separated into 3 piles. Next to them were 2 bowls of bright red, oily crawfish, not very big, but plentiful in quantity. In the corner, there were a few bags of fruit piled up, looking wilted and shriveled, with orange peels already wrinkled. The drinks were the kind of off-brand ones sold by the case in wholesale markets, with colorful bottles crammed together. Jolie sent several voice messages in the group chat. When I opened them, she was urging everyone to hurry over, saying everything was ready. The group immediately exploded with messages, scrolling so fast it made my eyes dizzy. Holy crap, there really are pigs, cows, and sheep, and even seafood. Just these 2 pots of crawfish. Sister Zhou, I'll kowtow to you first, coming right away. Today I'll transform into a glutton. Don't anyone stop me. Compliments came one after another. Jolie replied with a shy emoji and sent a voice message saying, don't be shy, everyone. If it's not enough, I'll have my uncle bring more. I looked at the photos posted in the group, and the more I looked, the tighter my brow furrowed. As the daughter of a family that has been in the meat business since childhood, I could tell almost at a glance that the color of the meat was off. The pork was pale, the beef a dark red, and the lamb had a dull, unappetizing grayish tone, clearly the kind of zombie meat that had been frozen for a long time and then thawed. As for the marinated meat, the color was too bright, unnaturally so. It was obvious that it had been soaked in the marinade for too long, and some of the edges had even dried out and hardened. I zoomed in and out on the photo, double-checking it several times, and finally couldn't help but send a message in the group chat. It's hot right now, so everyone should be careful when eating. If it tastes off, don't eat it. Spoiled meat can easily cause diarrhea. Even that message, I had already weighed my words carefully. This season, without a refrigerator, meat left out for so long, getting an upset stomach is the least of the worries. What's more frightening is food poisoning caused by bacterial infection, which in severe cases can lead to dehydration and death. I was just kindly reminding her. But who would have thought that Jolie would completely explode upon hearing this? Lin Xiaoyang, what do you mean by that? You're not coming yourself. Can you not affect others and ruin their appetite? I get it, you're just jealous that I can arrange things so well and stole the spotlight you wanted, right? You're petty, and on top of that, your mind is so narrow. Then she had a few of my roommates. You see now, it's still not too late to come. Following someone with a petty mother like that won't get you anywhere good. These words directly infuriated Jiang Qing, who cursed her for being insane, so the three of them all posted photos of the roast whole lamb they had just taken in the group chat. Can't get anything good. Don't make our sister Wei laugh. Okay, exactly. Who's jealous of whom? The roast whole lamb you didn't get to eat. We're eating it right now. Sister Wei is treating us, and we're benefiting from it. Xiaoyang was just kindly reminding everyone that it's hot. Worried you might get diarrhea from eating spoiled meat. Why are you reacting so strongly? Could it be that someone knows the meat they bought isn't fresh, and that's why they got defensive when it was pointed out? After the 3 messages were sent, the group chat went silent for several seconds. Jolie didn't say anything more, but someone stepped up to speak for her. I ate the meat, and I didn't think it was spoiled. It was just a bit salty. Tastes about the same as the food at a buffet. The crayfish meat is a bit loose, but I've been constipated lately, so it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, that young lady just looks down on cheap meat and scorns what us low-class people eat. But even so, there's no need to be disgusting about it, right? For $50, I can eat all this. Even if it gives me diarrhea, I'd praise it for being a laxative. Besides, us poor folks have stomachs made of iron, definitely not the same as that young lady's delicate one. Even if your family is loaded, it's fine if you don't fit in. No one's forcing you to, but can't you at least say a few nice words? I looked at these words and didn't reply. Anyway, I've said everything I needed to say. Whether they listen or not is up to them. Seeing that the roast whole lamb was ready, the 4 of us simply muted the group chat and stopped looking at it to avoid getting upset. The farmhouse restaurant is run by my uncle, a 40-minute drive from school. He heard I was bringing my roommate over and directly cleared out the best pavilion in the backyard for us, saying we could play as we liked, no matter how late. When the whole roasted lamb was brought out, it was sizzling with oil, the skin golden and crispy. The uncle personally carved the meat, and the sound of the knife slicing through the lamb made everyone's mouth water. The 4 of us sat around the table, none of us having time to talk, chewing on the meat with our eyes fixed on the next slice. I feel like I'm dreaming. This lamb is so tender. Let them eat their frozen zombie meat. Jiang Qing's mouth was stuffed full. That's why I said, stick with Sister Wei, and you'll eat 9 meals in 3 days. Damn it, you wicked capitalist, I'm going to eat you broke. Hey, leave me a piece of lamb chop. After finishing the roast whole lamb, they went to pick grapes in the back, eating them fresh off the vine, sweet and sour, perfect for cutting through the grease. I sang karaoke for a while in the afternoon, and Jiang Qing belted out a rendition of Love Until Death that made everyone laugh. We played board games until it got dark, and the movie playing in the background gradually lost its audience. The 4 of us lounged on the sofa, gazing out the window at the street lamp in the courtyard. 7. We had a great time and headed back, arriving at school just before 8 o'clock. Laughing and chatting, we walked downstairs and spotted several ambulances parked in front of the dormitory building from a distance. The scene was so overwhelming that all 4 of us were stunned. A large crowd had gathered outside, dorm supervisors, counselors, school administrators, and doctors and nurses in white coats. Stretchers were carried out of the building one after another, with people lying on them curled up, some clutching their stomachs and dry heaving, others pale as paper, unable even to groan. We stood at the edge of the crowd, overhearing people discussing among themselves. It seems like some students from a certain class got food poisoning after eating outside. Mass food poisoning, Holy crap, what did they eat? Which restaurant? I need to avoid it, it doesn't seem like they ate at a restaurant. I'm not too sure either. I just saw the boys' dorm, and it was even scarier. I heard several of them passed out from diarrhea. When a few were carried out, they were still spraying non-stop, couldn't hold it in at all. The three of us exchanged glances. No way, it shouldn't be. At that moment, everyone seemed to have guessed something, until Jiang Qing shouted, "Check the group chat, quick." Several people immediately pulled out their phones and opened the muted group. Instantly shocked, the group from the picnic probably returned to the dorm around 6 o'clock. Starting around 6, the tone in the group chat began to shift. Why do I feel something's off with my stomach? Holy crap, I feel like throwing up. No kidding, you ate so much meat and shrimp. You ate the most in the whole class. With all that food piling up, of course you'd feel sick. That person never replied again, and the classmates in the group all assumed he must have overeaten and gotten indigestion. But half an hour later, the group chat suddenly exploded. Does anyone have medicine for diarrhea? I can't take it anymore. Help, I've started having diarrhea too. My stomach hurts so much I feel like I'm dying. Our entire dorm is going through it. I've been squatting in the bathroom for over 10 minutes, and my legs are almost numb. Could it really be the meat that's the problem? Holy crap, Wang Yuan passed out from the diarrhea. Wang Yuan was the one who ate the most and was the first to mention in the group chat that he had diarrhea. At this point, everyone seemed to finally realize there was something wrong with the ingredients, so they started tagging Zhou in the group chat. At Zhou, where are you? Where did you go? Didn't you say the meat was just brought in by your uncle and there was definitely no problem? Help, someone in our dorm has already passed out. I've called an ambulance. Good thing I thought the meat was too salty and didn't eat much. If I had known, should have listened to Lin Zhaoyang and not gone on this picnic. With such a big commotion in the group, Chen Yu, as the class monitor, couldn't just stand by and do nothing. I'm also fine since I didn't eat much. I've already notified the class advisor and counselor, and the ambulance has been called. Everyone, hang in there. At Zhou, why aren't you answering the phone? Go ask your uncle right now what's going on with this meat. The counselor stood beside the ambulance, clutching his phone, his face as pale as the students on the stretchers. He was speaking with the school leaders when he looked up and saw the four of us standing outside the crowd. He immediately waved us over. Lin Zhaoyang, are you all okay? Teacher, we're fine, we didn't go on the picnic. I walked up to him and asked, Teacher, what's the situation now? 35 in the class, 31 went, and now 28 have collapsed. The counselor's voice was trembling. Chen Yu has taken medicine and is much better now. There are 2 with mild symptoms under observation in the dorm, but they're also, he swallowed hard, unable to finish that word, and suddenly his face was full of anger. Where's Zhou? Do you know where she is? Can't reach her. Chen Yu walked over from the side, his face pale, likely from stomach pain. His phone screen was still lit, with a row of missed calls to Zhou. In the call log, the counselor gritted their teeth and dialed again. With the speakerphone on, a mechanical female voice came from the phone. Sorry, the number you have dialed is powered off. Silence lingered for a few seconds. The blue light of the ambulance was still spinning, casting flickering shadows on everyone's faces. Another car started its engine, its horn piercing the night sky as it slowly drove away. Teacher, maybe we should just call the police. I spoke up, and the counselor looked at me. I knew that in this situation, everyone was anxious, which made staying calm all the more valuable, given the current situation. More than half the class is in the hospital, and we still don't know the exact outcome. Now things have reached a point where we have to notify the parents. 30 students have food poisoning at the same time, and the person responsible for purchasing the ingredients is missing. Though I don't want to think the worst of people, I feel she probably knew there was something wrong with that batch of meat beforehand, but didn't expect it to actually cause trouble, which is why she went into hiding. Having said that, Chen Yu nodded as if recalling something. It must be that she barely ate anything all day, at most just some fruit. Look, I looked at the counselor. The truth of the matter was clearly about to come to light. The counselor said nothing, turning to glance at the school leader beside him. The leader, a middle-aged man in his 50s, silently listened from the side, then pushed up his glasses, his face as dark as iron. This classmate's analysis is very good. Call the police now. This kind of thing can't be covered up. The school must show its stance and give the parents an explanation. The counselor nodded, took out his phone, and dialed 110. By the time the police car arrived, the ambulance had already made 4 trips. The last 2 boys, with mild symptoms, helped each other out of the dormitory building and climbed into the back of the last vehicle on their own. The police car pulled up next to the ambulance, and 2 officers got out, speaking at length with the school leaders and the counselor. I said a word to the counselor, pulled Jiang Qing and the others into a taxi, and insisted that Qin Yu come along to the hospital as well, making him get checked out too. The emergency room was almost entirely filled with familiar faces. The chairs on both sides of the corridor were full, the recliners in the infusion area were also occupied, and a few people were squatting in the corner clutching their stomachs, their faces pale and foreheads covered in cold sweat. The air was thick with the smell of disinfectant and some indescribable odor. A nurse pushed a cart through the crowd, loaded with 4 bags and empty vomit bags. By 3 in the morning, the statistics came in, 29 people were hospitalized. Wang Yuan couldn't be saved. The 2 others who had eaten as much as he did were admitted to the ICU, suffering from organ failure caused by bacterial infection, and they are still not out of danger. A freshman class at a university suffered mass food poisoning after a group dinner, and 1 person died from it. 8. This incident caused a huge uproar. On the 3rd day after the incident, nearly 100 people gathered at the school gate. Some held up banners, some held up photos, and journalists squeezed to the front with their cameras set up. Wang Yuan's parents sat on the ground. His mother fainted twice from crying and was taken away by an ambulance once. Other parents blocked the principal's office, pounding the table until their hands swelled. Those days, the entire school was in chaos. Counselors and school leaders were called to meetings countless times. The police investigation was also underway simultaneously, and they eventually found Zhou Li in an unlicensed internet cafe dozens of kilometers away from the school. When they found her, she was curled up in the corner of a sofa in the last row, with a half-eaten bowl of instant noodles in front of her and a phone with a cracked screen. Upon learning that Wang Yuan was dead, she was so frightened that she almost wet her pants on the spot. As the police took her away, she kept muttering, "It has nothing to do with me, I didn't know either." Once inside the police station, she directly claimed that she had no idea why the meat she sold had caused deaths, shifting all the blame onto her so-called uncle. Following the lead of the uncle she had named, the police traced the trail to the buffet restaurant. When the owner was brought to the police station, he was trembling like a leaf. After hearing the police question him about selling the meat, he immediately exploded, "Bullshit, niece, I don't even know her. It was just recently that this woman came to my door, saying she ran a dog farm and wanted to buy a batch of nearly expired meat at a low price to feed the dogs. I figured, since it's for the dogs, freshness doesn't really matter, so I sold her all the meat in the warehouse that was about to expire at 10 yuan per catty. If you don't believe me, check the chat records. I wouldn't dare sell it to people to eat, that would be endangering lives." The police retrieved the chat records, and the situation was confirmed. Zhou Li could no longer make any excuses. Her parents had rushed over from out of town. Her mother had been crying all the way into the school. Her father stood at the door of the counselor's office, listening to the entire sequence of events. His face went from flushed red to ashen gray, and finally, he slapped Zhou Li across the face, sending her stumbling sideways into the wall. "How could you do this? Your father and I have worked so hard to put you through school, and now, after only this short time at school, you've caused someone's death. How are your father and I supposed to live?" Zhou Li covered her face and said nothing. Her mother rushed over, grabbing her father's arm and crying, but he shook her off. "Don't plead for her. Do you have any idea how much money this beast has to pay for taking a life? Where would the family have that much money for her? Cut ties. From today on, I don't have this daughter anymore." Zhou Li lifted her head, the slap mark on her face red and purple, her lips trembling as she cried out in despair, "Dad," but her father turned and walked away. Her mother took 2 steps after him, then turned back to glance at her, but in the end, she also left. In the corridor, she was the only one left, crouched in the corner, her face buried in her knees, shoulders heaving, but no sound of crying came out. On the day the case was transferred to the court, the public gallery was packed. Everyone in the class who could come, except for those still hospitalized, crowded into the back rows of seats. When the bailiff brought Zhou Li in, I almost didn't recognize her. She had lost a lot of weight, her cheekbones protruding, her eyes sunken, and her hair messily plastered to her face. When she stood in the dock, her legs were trembling, and she barely managed to steady herself by gripping the railing. When the verdict came down, she was ordered to pay 3 million in civil compensation and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Some felt it was satisfying, while others thought it was still not enough. Zhou Li stood in the defendant's dock, and after hearing the verdict, her entire body seemed to have its bones removed. collapsing softly as she slid downward, held up by two bailiffs. Then she suddenly lifted her head, her murky eyes sweeping across the gallery before finally fixing on me. There was hatred in that gaze, a thick, unyielding hatred, like charcoal that had burned too long without producing a flame, leaving only a dull red glow buried in the ashes. "It's all your fault." Her voice was hoarse, but it rang out clearly in the silent courtroom. "If it weren't for you, how could I have ended up like this?" The bailiff tugged at her, but she didn't move. "It shouldn't be like this. I've been reborn once, so why am I getting worse and worse?" Her voice suddenly rose, sharp and distorted. "In your past life, didn't you climb up by stealing the spotlight? Why does it have to end like this for me?" A muffled stir rippled through the courtroom at her words. "Past life, rebirth, is she insane? I think it might be," some whispered among themselves. Others frowned at her as if looking at a madwoman. The bailiff pulled her harder, her voice torn apart by the sound of footsteps. "I won't give up. I won't give up. I can still start over. Just let me be reborn once more." The bailiff dragged her out, her shouts echoing back from the end of the corridor, intermittent, until finally cut off completely by the heavy door. The visitors' gallery remained silent for a long time. Seeing me frozen and silent, Jiang Qing leaned in, thinking I was frightened, and gently touched my arm. "Xiaoyang, are you okay?" I shook my head. "I'm fine. I was just thinking about the dream I had last night." In the dream, Jolie didn't steal the spotlight. I was the one who bought the water during military training, and the classmates were grateful to me. Later, during the picnic, I was the one who volunteered to help. I brought meat from home at half price, and everyone enjoyed the meal, praising me for being generous over the 4 years of college. Just as Jolie said, I did a lot of things like this, things that put me in the spotlight. As a result, I was sought after and relied upon by everyone, trusted and valued by my teachers. I was elected as an activities committee member, joined the class committee, and subsequently won first class scholarships for 4 consecutive years, joined the party, and finally secured a postgraduate recommendation. It can be said that these 4 years went extremely smoothly for me. It was as if this was the life path I was meant to follow, until the day of the postgraduate recommendation in my senior year. On my way back to the dormitory, a female classmate I wasn't very familiar with suddenly rushed up to me and started cursing me out. She said I rely entirely on my family and have taken everything that should have been hers. She said she hates me. She asked why I get to be in the spotlight, why I get the graduate school recommendation, and why all the advantages go to me. I have some impression of her, but we're not close. I politely asked her if there might be a misunderstanding, but she only got more agitated and even pushed me. I lost my footing and stumbled back 2 steps, and she came after me, throwing punches. In the scuffle, we both fell into the man-made lake behind the school. The water was freezing as I struggled to surface. I saw her beside me, her eyes wide open, her mouth opening and closing as if she was cursing me, but all sound was swallowed by the water. Then I woke up. When I woke up, my heart was pounding, and a sliver of light seeped through the gap in the curtains. I lay there for a while before calming down, thinking it was just some chaotic nightmare. It wasn't until today, hearing Jolie's words in court, that I realized none of it was a dream. Jolie was reborn, convinced that in my past life, I overshadowed her by stealing the spotlight and taking away the achievements that belonged to her. So, in this life, she imitates me, trying to steal my path, but she forgot. I did those things because I had the confidence to back them up. My experience and insight gave me the clarity to know the ultimate purpose behind everything I did, also knows where the boundaries of responsibility lie. Every time I steal the spotlight, there's something solid backing me up, but she has nothing. She only has an urgent desire to snatch away what belongs to others, and the foolishness of pretending to be something she's not. I closed my eyes and opened them again, only to see Jiang Qing's worried face in front of me. "I'm really fine, let's go." The sun was shining brightly as we walked out of the courthouse. Autumn has arrived, the sky is high and the clouds are pale, and the wind blows cool. Jiang Qing and the others followed behind me, chattering about something, and I responded half-heartedly. I suddenly remembered that summer of my senior year in my dream, when the sunlight was just as beautiful. The 4 of us were just like this, walking back to the dorm together after taking our graduation photos, excitedly planning our different paths ahead. But there are too many variables in the future for me to be certain whether I can still achieve the accomplishments I made in my past life. But none of that matters, because I am well aware that, whether in my past life or now, I will unhesitatingly charge toward the goal I desire, to compose a future as I envision it. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. The 13th year of Dad pretending to be poor, Mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. To raise money for Mom's treatment, I priced myself and sold for $300,000. When I went to handle the hospitalization, the money in the card had vanished. I broke down and called the police, but my dad snatched the phone away from me. Yao Yao, your money has been confiscated by Dad. Even if you're short on cash, you can't sell yourself short. If you inherit the family business someday and run into trouble, won't you end up selling off the entire Zhou family? Dad is very disappointed in you. You really couldn't withstand the test. From today on, I, Zhou Zhenhua, no longer have a daughter like you. After saying this, Dad drove off in his luxury car. I was so angry that I coughed up blood. The trial drugs had already left my body riddled with holes, and at that moment, I could only lie on the ground waiting to die. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to elementary school. When I opened my eyes again, my mother was calling my father to eat. The dishes on the table were plentiful, but my father frowned and found it hard to swallow. Mom didn't know that by then, Dad was already worth a few million, and he had grown tired of indulging in delicacies every day. Yet at home, he claimed he was just a cleaner, relying on shoe shining to earn extra money on the side. His monthly salary wasn't enough to cover his own expenses, and with Grandma's severe illness, he ended up owing tens of thousands in debt every month. From childhood to adulthood, I never spent much of his money, whether it was diapers or formula when he was little, or school supplies and clothes as he grew up. Ask, and the answer is always no money. Ask, and he'll cry poor. His mother understood him, never asked him for anything, and often worked 3 jobs a day just to help ease his burden. Instead, I have to listen to my dad. Your dad works hard too, even though he doesn't earn much. It's already commendable that he's willing to work. Many people in his situation would have given up on themselves, let alone support their mother. Oh, my love-struck mom. I don't argue back, just nod silently. I immediately wrote about my dad in my essay, titled, My Janitor Dad. I wrote that being a janitor is a great job. Although many people might consider it insignificant, this job genuinely changes our living environment, making it clean and comfortable for us. My dad is also a great father. Although many people might think his salary is meager, this job truly allows him to realize his self-worth and makes him part of the backbone of society. My homeroom teacher was amazed after reading it and praised my writing, saying it surpassed that of 99% of elementary school students. Then I sent my work to the city for the competition. It won first place without a doubt and was selected by a magazine. The homeroom teacher was extremely happy and said that during the parent-teacher conference, they would definitely interview my father. I asked the homeroom teacher, will my dad be happy? The homeroom teacher smiled and patted my head. Of course. He would definitely be proud to have a daughter like you. Hearing this, I smiled contentedly. Doesn't Dad like to pretend to be a cleaner? Then I'll spread the word and tell everyone that he's a cleaner. Elementary school content is far too easy for me. The only thing I care about is when I can eat the lunchbox my mom prepared for me. I lay on the desk, continuously drawing circles in my book, waiting for the last class to end. My deskmate Su Tingting was also hungry. I saw her lower her head and quickly pull out a piece of chocolate from under the desk. Stuffing it into her mouth, I could almost smell the unique sweet aroma of chocolate, and my gaze was involuntarily drawn to it. As if sensing it, Su Tingting raised her eyebrows smugly. Never had it before, right? My dad bought it for me, and we have plenty more at home. Want some? Kneel down and lick my shoes, and I'll give you some. I shook my head. That stuff tastes awful. I also begged my dad to buy me chocolate, but all I got was a scolding. Later on, when my mom fell ill, I couldn't bring myself to buy it anymore. It wasn't until I earned money from participating in a drug trial that I finally bought a piece. Even though my stomach was already extremely fragile at the time, I thought about eating slowly, but once I started, I couldn't help but devour it. The smooth, rich flavor made me feel like I could swallow my own tongue. In less than 3 seconds, I was vomiting violently, my stomach hurting so much that I rolled on the floor in agony. Now, whenever I think of chocolate, I immediately feel a cramping pain in my abdomen. Su Tingting rolled her eyes and sneered, what a show-off. This expression was about 70 to 80% similar to that woman's, and that woman, like Su Tingting, lived a pampered life, carrying expensive bags, wearing bright red nail polish and lipstick, with skin glowing with a radiant sheen. When I died on the cold hospital floor, my soul drifted in mid-air, seeing Dad park his luxury car outside the beauty center. Su Tingting and her mother walked out with beaming smiles and slipped into the back seat of The car. It was only then that I realized Su Tingting's mother was the woman Dad had been seeing on the side. While my mother and I were saving money by eating porridge and noodles, Su Tingting and her mother had grown tired of Japanese, Korean, and French cuisine. While my mother and I couldn't afford to go to the hospital even when injured, Su Tingting's family spent 5,000 yuan on a single grooming session for their dog. While I was running around for living expenses and medical bills, Su Tingting was challenging herself to travel around the world. Too many for me to even recount. Finally, the bell rang for the end of class, and I took my lunchbox to the garden outside to savor the taste of a mother's love. After school in the afternoon, Mom was bustling around the kitchen all by herself, with all sorts of ingredients spread out on the floor. It turned out that Dad's investor was coming over for dinner. They specifically requested some home-cooked dishes. Naturally, Dad didn't want to waste money, so he simply bought the ingredients and had Mom cook at home. These are all big bosses. If they're satisfied, even a little something from their hands could make me rich, Dad repeatedly reminded me. Then he told me to go back to my room to do my homework and not come out to cause trouble. I nodded in confusion and quietly did my homework in my room. Half an hour later, the aroma of food wafted from the kitchen. I was starving, having digested my lunch long ago, and it was time for dinner. But after waiting for several hours, my mother came in, holding 2 large steamed buns in her hands. You must be starving. Here, have one. I frowned and looked toward the door. Outside, my father and a few investors were eating heartily. Mom, I want some too. Mom sighed. Be good, your dad is doing important work. Maybe if they eat well, they'll invest in your dad, and he won't have to work so hard as a cleaner. I'm really at a loss with my mom's naive optimism. She doesn't know, or doesn't want to believe it. Even if my dad really struck it rich, the first thing that came to his mind wouldn't be to let us live a good life, because by this time, my dad already had a bit of money. After this collaboration succeeded, my dad soared to new heights, transforming from an obscure small business owner into a billionaire CEO. However, he still persistently pretended to be poor in front of my mom and me, continuing to exploit us under the guise of testing us, until the very end. Mom and I never benefited from him in the slightest. I took a bite of the steamed bun. The bun, which had tasted sweet and pleasant in my mouth, now seemed bland and dry in contrast to the various savory aromas of meat. I put down the bun and, ignoring Mom's attempts to stop me, rushed straight to the dining table. Dad, I want some too. I raised my voice and shouted loudly. Everyone froze and turned to look at me. Dad frowned, immediately gesturing for me to go back inside. Stop making a fuss, you'll get some later. I refused to leave, instead showing a look of eager anticipation. I wiped the corner of my mouth with my hand, then spoke in the distinctive broadcast tone of an elementary school student. I can perform for you. I can recite ancient poems. As I spoke, I swayed my head back and forth. The spring river's tide stretches level with the sea. The moon over the sea rises with the tide, shimmering for thousands of miles along the waves, where on the spring river is there no bright moon. I recited it all in one breath, then smiled ingratiatingly and pointed at the ribs in front of me. Can I eat now? The investor seemed amused by me. Of course, little greedy cat. Dad also chuckled awkwardly. Hurry up and thank Uncle Lee. I picked up a small bowl and took a few pieces, then suddenly burst into tears. Thank you, Uncle Lee. Thank you, Uncle Lee. If it weren't for you coming, Mom and I would never have been able to eat such delicious meat. Everyone's expressions varied, the atmosphere awkward to the point of being terrifying. Li Mingji's expression instantly turned grave. Can't you usually afford to eat meat? Dad snapped out of his shock and hurriedly scolded me sternly. What nonsense are you talking about? Get back to your room right now. But I refused. I held the small bowl, crying with sobs. Yes, Uncle Lee, my family is extremely poor. My dad is a cleaner, and he also helps others shine shoes on the side. Even so, the money he earns is never enough for his own use. My mom has to work 3 jobs a day to help him pay off debts, and I have to scrimp and save too. At this point, I lowered my head, following my gaze. The socks I'm wearing have 2 holes in them, just enough to expose my big toes. Everyone's expressions were complicated, especially Li Mingji's, who finally caught on after a long moment. Zhou Zhenhua, you bastard, you're not trying to screw us over, are you? Didn't you make money last time? Where did you lose it all? Gambling or something. As soon as these words were spoken, the other 2 also looked on guard. Dad panicked and quickly forced a smile to explain. No, it's just this kid talking nonsense. What nonsense? Li Mingji pointed at my socks. These socks didn't just tear in a day or two. This project sounds good in words, but I think we should pause this collaboration for now and talk about it next time. Several people stood up as they spoke. Dad anxiously tried to dissuade them. Kids wear out socks so quickly. Me, yes, uncle, I change my socks once a year. Kids just love to lie. I immediately followed up, uncle, my essay about my dad even won an award. Last time, I got perfect scores in Chinese, math, and English. The few of them packed up their things faster and faster, finishing in just a couple of moves before slamming the door shut. Dad chased after them, nearly getting his nose smashed by the door. He didn't even have time to cry out in pain, stumbling along behind them, trying to explain, but it was no use. Li Mingji was convinced that Dad was truly poor and was determined to make them the fall guys, so naturally, he didn't give him a friendly look. Dad had been busy for over half a year, and it all went down the drain in an instant. When he returned home, his face was as dark as storm clouds. He immediately vented his anger on Mom. Look at the daughter you raised. She actually said in public that I'm a janitor. Mom was confused. But you are, aren't you? Dad choked up, as if only then realizing that the title of cleaner was one he had assigned to himself. He was the first to look down on it. Mom turned to look at me. I was already seated at the table, digging in heartily. The dishes Mom makes are truly exceptionally delicious. I'm in good digestive health, feeling great, and my appetite is especially strong. Seeing me eat so voraciously, my mom was about to scold me, but suddenly her eyes turned red. I think Nyan has a point. Dad frowned and asked, what did you say? Mom took a deep breath. I think Nyan is right. She's only 11 years old, still a child. What's wrong with her wanting to eat something good? Ever since I married you, I've always felt extremely anxious and deprived, running around every day just to make ends meet. But Zhou Zhenhua, how could you enjoy all the good food and drinks yourself without giving a single thought to your daughter? Dad was stunned, his expression turning somewhat awkward. Me? What are you talking about? I treated them to a meal. Wasn't it for the future? If I succeed, won't I be able to eat whatever I want in the future? Why must I eat like a starving ghost right now? Now it's all because of her. She offended my investor. After this meal, we'll just have to go hungry. Mother couldn't help but frown, seemingly somewhat conflicted, as if swayed. Dad turned around and glared at me with a fierce expression, scolding me. Just because you were greedy, you made me miss a chance to get rich. I put down the big chicken leg, pouting, on the verge of tears. I said, I'm sorry, Dad. I couldn't hold back and let out a burp. I'm so hungry. It's my fault. I couldn't control my stomach. But Dad, I have some good news to tell you. I got the top score in my grade. Can you come to the parent-teacher conference tomorrow? Our teacher specifically mentioned you, and you'll be publicly praised. Dad looked displeased and waved his hand dismissively. You made me lose so much face. I'm not going. He turned around and sat on the sofa to play on his phone. Not sure what he saw, he called out my name. Nyan, what time does that parent-teacher meeting start? My dad arrived at the school and didn't even glance at me, instead searching through the crowd. I thought he was looking for Su Tingting and her mother, but to my surprise, he walked straight over to Li Mingji, smiling with a flattering expression. Mr. Li, what a coincidence. We meet again. I'm here for my daughter's parent-teacher meeting. The two of them chatted about something, and as they talked, their relationship seemed to become particularly harmonious. Li Mingji, who was originally as cold as an iceberg, gradually began to show a smile. Dad, Su Tingting raised her hand to greet my dad, almost scaring him to the point of fainting. My dad quickly spotted Su Tingting's mother, Zhang Lan, and hurried over to whisper to her. After a moment, Zhang Lan, with a look of playful reproach, wrapped her arm around Su Tingting and led her away in another direction. After doing all this, my dad glanced guiltily in my direction. Seeing me with my head down reading, he let out a long sigh of relief and strolled over to me. Dad's here. Where are you sitting? On the large playground. Our class seats were still arranged according to the classroom seating order. Li Mingji's son was from the neighboring class and happened to be right next to us. I pulled my dad to our seats and found ourselves face to face with Zhang Lan and her daughter. It was clear to see that Su Tingting was breathing heavily, her eyes blazing with anger. It seemed she had only just realized that the dad she had been referring to was actually my father. My dad was also quite guilty, constantly making eye signals to Zhang Lan. Su Tingting was sulking the whole time, as if deliberately throwing a tantrum, and I acted as if I didn't notice at all. The award ceremony began on stage. Over 20 students had participated in the city's elementary school essay competition this time, but only I won first place. All the others got third place. After a round of polite speeches, the award ceremony commenced. Hearing my name, my eyes lit up. Dad was also incredibly excited, repeatedly saying to Li Mingji, "My daughter won an award. My daughter is really good at her studies." The next second, the homeroom teacher looked at me and said, "Now, let's invite our classmate Zhou Nian to read her award-winning essay, My Janitor Dad." The smile that had just formed on my dad's face instantly froze on his lips. His face suddenly flushed red. As for me, suppressing the corners of my mouth with a mocking sneer, I stepped onto the stage with ease to begin my essay recitation. My father, Zhou Zhenhua, is an outstanding sanitation worker. He leaves early and returns late every day, tirelessly cleaning the environment of our entire city. Every grain of sand and piece of paper on the ground is his enemy. I had never seen so many expressions on my father's face before, since he had just spoken very loudly. Everyone turned to look at him. Someone whispered, "Is he a cleaner? He doesn't look like one based on his clothes." It's hard to understand why someone so young would work as a cleaner. Usually, people only sweep the streets after retirement when they have nothing else to do, right? I heard that cleaners earn very little money, so he probably can't support his family, right? Dad's face turned from red to pale, then from pale to dark. Beside them, Li Mingji listened with an increasingly gloomy expression, as he heard more. He finally couldn't hold back. "I'm starting to doubt that there's a single truthful word in your mouth. I'll say it again. Cooperation is out of the question." After saying this, Li Mingji directly changed his seat. Dad could no longer hold back, wanting to explain but afraid of disturbing others. Just then, the homeroom teacher quickly pulled him toward the podium. Immediately after, various cameras and microphones were aimed at him. Under the blazing spotlight, questions came one after another. "Your daughter is so sensible. Have you ever thought about changing jobs to earn more money and improve your life? What is the current income for a cleaner? How did you feel when you heard your daughter's essay?" Dad broke out in a cold sweat. Seeing the murmurs in the audience, his mind went blank, and he stammered, wanting to say something. Another reporter immediately had a sudden realization. Could it be that Dad Zhou chose the job of a cleaner in his prime because he suffers from a stutter? Oh my, Dad Zhou is truly disabled but determined. No wonder his daughter is so outstanding. The homeroom teacher was also moved by the truth and earnestly held my father's hand, saying, "Mr. Zhou, I have an idea that might help you. You see, all the teachers in our school wear leather shoes. From now on, you can be responsible for polishing our shoes, which will also help increase your stable income." Someone in the audience looked up and shouted, "Great!" Then, thunderous applause erupted. Dad struggled to leave, but was held down by more and more people, interviewed, comforted, and photographed. When it was all over, Dad's face was as dark as if he had been poisoned. Had never seen Dad so silent and furious. He walked out without saying a word, and I followed behind him, clutching my backpack. At this moment, he had no idea that his glorious image had already spread across the internet, and even news media were considering nominating him as one of the city's most beautiful fathers. On the way home, we encountered someone cutting in line and causing a traffic jam. Dad got so angry that he honked the horn, rolled down the window, and let out a string of national expletives. The driver in the car opposite saw my dad and burst out laughing. "Hey, isn't that the janitor Dad? What kind of car is this? A Citroen from centuries ago. He doesn't stutter when he's cursing." Dad was furious. "You're the damn janitor, you are. I'll bury you in money, believe it or not." "I find it quite amusing. Didn't you say yourself that you're a cleaner? Everyone thought you were. So why are you getting angry now? It's all your fault for talking nonsense and writing such a terrible essay." As soon as Dad got home, he slammed the door hard and yelled at me. I immediately burst into tears. What did I do wrong? Mom rushed over, hugged me, and after finding out what happened, she turned to Dad and said, "Yeah, what did my daughter do wrong?" Dad opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. After all, it was he himself who pretended to be poor, who said he worked hard, as a cleaner, and even polished shoes for others. Now he was suffering but couldn't speak out, unable to voice his grievances. He totally deserved it, but Dad just couldn't swallow this anger. He glared at me fiercely. "It's you who ruined my career." Then he turned and glared at my mom. "Just keep protecting her. She'll drag you down sooner or later," Mom immediately retorted loudly. "Nonsense, I know my daughter very well. You're the one being unreasonable. I don't understand." "Fine, so it's my fault, then I'll just leave, okay? Anyway, you've both been fed up with me for a long time." With those words, Dad slammed the door and stormed out, leaving only Mom and me, staring at each other in silence. "Dad is angry. Mom, did I do something wrong?" I showed my guilt. Mom's eyes held both confusion and anger. she probably couldn't figure out what Dad was so upset about either. When she saw the push notification about the most beautiful dad behavior, she even thought I wrote it well, saying I was particularly sensible and talented. Finally, the matter was left unresolved, but in the end, Mom still felt sorry for Dad. Occasionally, when Dad came back asking for money, Mom would still give it to him. This just won't do. I racked my brains, worried about not knowing what to do. Su Tingting bumped into me. She was showing off her new backpack, which was supposedly ergonomic and didn't cause any fatigue when carried, costing over 2,000 yuan. Then she turned and asked me if I had ever seen one like it. Before I could answer, she covered her mouth and laughed. Oh, look, I completely forgot. Your dad is a cleaner, not like my dad who's a boss. I smiled and said, but your mom is the mistress. She's being kept by my dad. I saw them coming out of the water room the other day. And your mom's face was all red from my dad's kisses. Su Tingting's eyes widened, and then she let out a piercing scream. Zhou Nian, I'll strangle you. Then she pounced on me. Of course, I wasn't going to stand there and let her hit me. After all, I had been reborn once and had over a decade more memories than her. If she pulled my hair, I would gouge her eyes. If she kicked my stomach, I would pinch her thigh. In the end, both she and I were called into the office. Upon receiving the call and learning that Su Tingting and I had gotten into a fight, my dad finally came over. The first thing he said upon pushing the door open was to make me apologize to Su Tingting. Su Tingting gloated, hurry up and apologize, even your dad says it's your fault. I refused. You hit me first, you insulted me first, and you were the one who mocked my dad for being a cleaner first. Su Tingting was taken aback and quickly looked at my dad, her expression turning somewhat ingratiating. I was just joking with her. Who knew she'd suddenly lose her temper? My dad nodded, and without a word, rushed over and slapped me. If I tell you to apologize, you apologize. Have you forgotten your upbringing? You don't even listen to me anymore. Do you still see me as your father? My cheek stung, and I staggered a few steps. This scene happened to be witnessed by my mom, who had just arrived. Zhou Zhenhua, what gives you the right to hit my daughter? Mom widened her eyes, her voice suddenly rising several octaves. Not only was Dad stunned, but even I was taken aback. What are you doing here? Dad exclaimed in shock. Mom said, don't you worry about it. I hid the children's watch behind my back. After a long pause, Dad defended himself. Zhou Nian bullied a female classmate first, so of course I had to teach her a lesson. The other child is from a single-parent family, and life is already so hard for them. How could Zhou Nian still bully her? Mom frowned tightly and didn't respond. Instead, she pulled me close to her side, carefully checking me over and asking about what had just happened. Don't be afraid, just tell the truth about what happened. No matter what it is, Mom believes you. At that moment, I almost burst into tears. I sniffled and nodded firmly. Just now, Su Tingting mocked my dad for being a cleaner and said he couldn't afford her backpack, and then I said, her mom is the mistress my dad is keeping. The entire room fell silent. The homeroom teacher was extremely embarrassed. Dad was startled, his face turning a few shades paler. You child, what nonsense are you talking? No wonder she hit you. But Mom noticed the key point. Zhou Zhenhua, why have I never seen you wear this outfit and these shoes before? You even put on perfume and hair gel. At that very moment, the sound of high heels echoed from outside the door. Before Zhang Lan even arrived, her laughter had already filled the air. Zhenhua, they're just kids, don't be too harsh. Because of the misaligned standing positions, she didn't notice my mom at first. As soon as she entered, she went straight up to my dad and gave him a French kiss without any explanation. The homeroom teacher also didn't expect that a simple small parent-teacher meeting would turn into a scene of catching someone in the act. Mother immediately slapped Zhou Zhenhua twice. This slap is to pay back what you did to Zhou Nian, and this slap is my gift to you. Without waiting for father to explain or apologize, after saying that, Mom grabbed me and turned to leave. This time, Mom was truly angry. It seems that my mom, who is so love-struck, isn't entirely hopeless after all. At least she still has some principles and bottom lines. That very night after she returned, she cut off the medical expenses for grandma. With the surplus, she immediately hired someone to investigate Zhou Zhenhua's affairs, only to discover that he had earned several million last year. The first thing he did after making money was to find his first love and her daughter, buying them a house and a car, and settling them by his side. Perhaps he didn't remember where I was studying, so he accidentally had Su Tingting become my desk mate. Seeing all this, my mother's heart grew cold. I was worried that Mom might be completely devastated, but to my surprise, She wiped away her tears and, the next day, was as energetic as ever, still holding down 3 jobs without fail. I finally couldn't hold back and urged her to take a break. Now that we don't have to take care of grandma anymore, there's no need to rush to earn so much money. Protecting your health is the most important thing. I was afraid that Mom might develop lung cancer again due to overwork, and I feared losing her once more. Mom smiled and pinched my cheek. This time, Mom is earning money for you. Don't worry, this won't last too long. Once I save enough to open a shop, things will be much easier in the future. I couldn't persuade her, so I could only come back every day after school to help her. On Dad's side, things haven't been going well at first. He was very happy, feeling that he was finally free, but because he claimed to be a cleaner and pretended to be poor, he missed out on several money-making opportunities. Mom also stopped covering Grandma's medical expenses, so the bill naturally fell on his own shoulders, plus a mother and daughter who spend money like water. Dad's account only shows withdrawals, no deposits. Within 2 months, he couldn't hold on and regretted it. During these 2 months, Su Tingting competed with me everywhere at school. Mom bought me a new hair clip, and the next day, Su Tingting would buy one that was more expensive than mine. Mom bought me a limited edition pencil case, and the next day, Su Tingting brought a small LV bag to use as a pen holder. This was bought by my dad. Does your dad buy things for you? Oh, I forgot, you don't have a dad anymore. I nodded. Yes, the janitor dad is all yours. Su Tingting's face darkened, her voice cracking. You're just jealous. He's never been good to you, but he gives me everything I ask for, and he's not a janitor. He's the boss. Oh, I pulled out my report card. So annoying, I got a perfect score again. Su Tingting resentfully closed her mouth, as if someone had grabbed her throat, losing the ability to speak. Who told her to always come in last place? Finally, in the 3rd month away from home, Zhou Zhenhua still regretted it. He secretly followed me to my mother's newly opened small shop. It had been 3 months since we last met, and my mother had become a completely different person from before. Although she used to be beautiful, there was always an unshakable sorrow between her brows, but now, facing every customer, she smiled gently and generously, as if a filter had been added to her entire being. Zhou Zhenhua was completely stunned. He stood there, not saying a word, until his mother noticed him. The scene was strikingly similar to their first meeting, back when his mother was working part-time at a milk tea shop, and he was still a college student relying on financial aid. His mother said that at the time, he looked just like a pitiful stray puppy, and she couldn't help but treat him to a cup of milk tea. Later on, she often felt pity and sympathy for him, always wanting to take care of him involuntarily. So when I saw this scene, my heart tightened. I was afraid that my mother still had lingering feelings for him. Who would have thought that after glancing at Zhou Zhenhua, my mother immediately looked away. Wang Kai, come here. Mom waved at me. A chubby little black dog with glasses appeared before my eyes. I exclaimed in surprise and picked up the puppy, asking, where did you come from? Found it. Mom's compassion is acting up again. I quickly added, only cats and dogs can be picked up from the roadside. My mom agreed wholeheartedly. Yes, yes, we ignored Zhou Zhenhua the whole time, but he just wouldn't give up. When Zhou Zhenhua stammered, I regret it. You have no idea. That mother and daughter clearly treat me like an ATM. Not a day goes by without them spending money, and I'm under immense pressure now. My mother grew impatient. What exactly are you trying to say? Can you help me? I really have a feeling. I had a dream where I became a billionaire boss, but unfortunately, I died before I could enjoy it. Yet the dream felt so real. I'm sure it's true. If you're willing to get back together with me, just like before. After all, we haven't officially divorced yet. I promise I won't pretend to be poor anymore. I'll make you my CEO's wife. Hearing Zhou Zhenhua's lengthy spiel, my mother couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. How dare you say that? Mom turned around and asked, tell me, how can there be such shameless people in the world? A regular customer immediately chimed in, boss lady, isn't that your ex-husband who pretended to be poor? How could he even think of that? He just doesn't want to spend money on his wife and kids. He's completely clueless. Probably has shit for brains. Ha ha ha. Ah, so that's him. He looks quite handsome, but how could he do something so disgraceful? Many guests were also drawn in. Some began to vividly describe the scene at the time. Zhou Zhenhua gradually grew embarrassed and, amid the crowd's laughter, awkwardly turned and left. Before leaving, I didn't forget to say to my mother in a firm tone, I'll show you my determination. However, before determination could arrive, what came instead was Su Tingting's drugging. After returning from physical education class, I was about to drink water when I suddenly noticed a strange smell coming from my cup. I immediately reported it to the homeroom teacher, who helped me call the police. The police arrived and analyzed that pesticide had been put into the water cup. Based on the fingerprints on the cup, it was confirmed that the person who had drugged it was Su Tingting. Su Tingting was so scared she started crying, but Zhang Lan looked regretful. What are you crying for? You're under 14. Even killing someone isn't illegal. What can they do to you? The police couldn't do anything to Zhang Lan and her daughter. Even if she blatantly showed hostility toward me, there was nothing they could do but criticize and educate her. But she didn't expect that Zhou Zhenhua, in an effort to show off in front of my mother, would rush over, swing his arm, and give Zhang Lan 2 hard slaps. I told you, you can do whatever you want, but don't touch my woman and daughter. Zhou Zhenhua, you regret it, don't you? I knew you couldn't let them go. If I hadn't had my daughter poison them, I really wouldn't have noticed. You've changed your heart again. Zhang Lan, her face filled with disbelief, cried and wailed as she wrestled with him, while Su Tingting also burst into tears beside them. The police exchanged glances, astonished by what they had just heard. This farce ultimately ended with Zhang Lan being charged with criminal prosecution for instigating a minor to commit poisoning. Upon learning that Zhang Lan was highly likely to be sentenced, Zhou Zhenhua panicked. He blocked the entrance of his mother's shop to plead for Zhang Lan. As long as you are willing to forgive her, she won't have to go to jail. I'll do anything you ask. His mother was so angry that she grabbed a broom and hit him. That's your own daughter, you beast. She's about to kill your daughter, and you still want to plead for her. Zhou Zhenhua put on a deeply affectionate expression. No matter what, she was once with me. My mother gave a bitter smile. Then what about me? Am I just supposed to suffer? In my previous life, my mother worked tirelessly for this family, enduring pneumonia until it turned into lung cancer because she was afraid of spending money. But Dad didn't say a word. Not only did he not contribute a single cent, but he also used this matter to test me. I risked my body to test the medicine, yet under Zhang Lan's misinterpretation, he judged me as selling my dignity for money, allowing me to die from a sudden surge of anger and blood. Now, he is still putting on a show of deep affection. I just find it very ironic. He probably doesn't know. At Zhang Lan's place, he's just a fall guy. Zhang Lan's ex-husband is inherently violent and has been in and out of prison several times. In her previous life, when Zhang Lan's ex-husband first came looking for her, Zhou Zhenhua was wealthy at the time and casually hired a few bodyguards to beat him up, setting up a scheme to send him to prison. 10 years later, Zhang Lan's ex-husband was released from prison and, on the same day, drove a car to kill Zhou Zhenhua. Zhang Lan, who usually seemed deeply devoted to Zhou Zhenhua, turned around and signed a letter of forgiveness, then took his inheritance and reunited with her ex-husband in a grand and glorious manner. According to the timeline, it should be within the next month or two before Zhang Lan's ex-husband is released from prison. In this lifetime, Zhou Zhenhua had no money and couldn't afford a bodyguard. Thinking of this, I whispered to my mom. Although my mother was somewhat skeptical, she still told Zhou Zhenhua as I had requested. All right, I agree to forgive you, as long as you meet 2 conditions for me. Zhou Zhenhua nodded with confidence. I will definitely do it. First, divorce me. Second, buy accident insurance with my daughter as the beneficiary, holding the insurance policy and divorce certificate. Mom looked radiant, but she still didn't understand. What's the use of an insurance policy? Buying it for him is just a waste of money. Half a month later, I graduated from elementary school. The day my mom took me out to celebrate, someone from the insurance company called her. Are you a relative of Zhou Zhenhua? You once purchased an accident insurance policy with a coverage of up to 10 million, correct? If you have time today, our claims adjuster can visit to discuss the details. My mom was surprised. That's possible, but may I ask what happened? It's like this, Mr. Zhou was in a car accident and passed away. How could this be? After hanging up the phone, my mother looked astonished, but soon she was busy preparing food for the guests. In the afternoon, the insurance agent came to our home and conducted a series of investigations. After ruling out the possibility of my mother committing murder for insurance fraud and confirming that it was indeed an accident, they told us to patiently wait for the compensation amount to be credited. Mom looked at me suspiciously. I rubbed my nose. I heard from Su Tingting before that her biological father is very fierce, has been to prison, and is about to be released soon. Someone like that is bound to clash with my dad. Only then did Mom suddenly understand. She continued preparing the ingredients for tomorrow's sale with peace of mind. I'll continue helping peel the potatoes. Beside me, Wang Kai thought it was a game and kept biting at the potato peels. Eventually, tired from playing, he fell fast asleep right on top of the mountain of potato peels. At this moment, my heart is overflowing with love. Let's consider this 10 million as a small compensation from my father, who pretended to be poor, for my mother and me for the rest of our lives. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, I saved an old lady who was being bullied by my sister and received a beauty pearl as a gift from her. With my stunning looks, I quickly became an internet sensation and eventually married into a wealthy family. In this life, my sister took the beauty pearl before I could. She said everything that was mine now belongs to her, but she didn't know that the beauty pearl was actually a misfortune pearl. Becoming a beauty marked the beginning of her ill-fated life. When I was reborn, my sister was kicking the cleaner. Are you blind? Can't even mop the floor without splashing water on me? Do you think you can afford to pay for this dress? In the previous life, it was the same scene. The cleaner was a gray-haired grandmother. She was kicked by my sister's shoe tip, and the wound kept bleeding. Probably afraid of losing her job, the grandmother didn't dare to resist at all, only bowing her head and apologizing in heavily accented dialect. My sister snorted coldly and turned to leave. I couldn't stand by and watch, so I bought some antiseptic and gauze at a nearby convenience store, along with a bottle of warm milk for the grandmother. After handing these to the cleaning lady, she wiped her tears and said I was a good girl. She reached into her pocket, fumbled around, and pulled out a bead to give me. The bead was dazzling in color but ordinary in texture, hard to tell if it was glass or something else. It looked like the kind of thing you could buy by the handful for 10 yuan at a wholesale market. This thing is called the beauty pearl. If it recognizes you as its owner, you'll become the most beautiful woman in the world. At the time, I didn't take my grandmother's words seriously, but after that, it was as if I suddenly blossomed, growing more and more beautiful. My facial features and bone structure didn't change much, but they became increasingly refined. My skin gradually turned snow white, my hair ink black, and everyone who saw me said I had an indescribable aura. Later, I became an overnight internet sensation with just a few casual photos and quickly rose to become a top influencer. Brands sought me for endorsements, famous directors invited me to star in movies, and even wealthy heirs splurged fortunes just to win a smile from me. Little did I expect that I would return to this moment of helping the cleaning lady, but this time, after kicking the old lady, my sister suddenly froze in shock. She looked around, seemingly amazed and delighted by everything. I realized that she had also been reborn. Suddenly, my sister dropped her previous arrogance and hurriedly helped the cleaning lady up, continuously uttering kind words. I'm sorry, Grandma. That was my carelessness just now. Are you thirsty or hungry? I've just bought some cheese bread. Would you like one? The cleaning lady lowered her head, ignoring my sister's offer, and turned to leave. Seeing that kindness wasn't working, my sister decided to take a tougher approach. She called out, and the two boys accompanying her shopping immediately stepped forward, one on each side, and held the grandmother in place. Finally, my sister found the bead in the cleaning lady's pocket. I wanted to stop her, but those two boys blocked my way again. My sister smiled and put the bead on her hand. The glass bead emitted a brief glow before fading again. This is the mark of recognition. My sister walked over, her face brimming with triumph. Nina, the golden finger is mine this time. Let's see what you can use to compete with me now. I knew that my sister Willa had always disliked me. We are actually cousins. After my parents passed away, my uncle and aunt were pressured by relatives to adopt me. Since childhood, my grades were better than Willa's, and I had more talents than her. Even though we were in the same class, during parent-teacher meetings, the teachers would praise me as smart and hardworking, while Willa would only receive criticism. Willa's only advantage was that she was prettier than me. I was average-looking, always wearing thick, large black-framed glasses that almost covered my entire face. Willa, on the other hand, was the class beauty. She loved dressing up and stood out strikingly among the otherwise dull-looking students. During family gatherings, those aunts and relatives would always point at us and laugh, saying, Nina will have a successful career, and Willa will marry well. Every time this happened, a faint smile would appear on Willa's face. In her eyes, working hard for success naturally couldn't compare to marrying well and living a life of ease. Yet, I somehow ended up with something like the beauty pearl. The powerful golden finger has transformed me into a top-tier beauty who can rely solely on looks to get by, far beyond what an ordinary pretty girl like Willa could ever aspire to. Willa completely broke down. I don't know if she bound herself to a system or made a deal with the devil. In any case, she took me back to when we were 18. This time, Willa, who had snatched the beauty pearl, indeed began to change, after a holiday, when she appeared at school. Everyone's eyes were drawn to her, her fair complexion, ink-black long hair, and those long-lashed eyes seemed to hold a misty rain. Under the sunlight, she looked like a painted beauty from an ancient scroll. Almost every boy in the school could hear the sound of their own hearts skipping a beat. They scrambled to fawn over my sister, one asking if she was thirsty and wanted milk tea, another offering to save her a seat for self-study. Willa chuckled lightly, brushing them off as she made her way to me. With a smile, she slung an arm over my shoulder and whispered in my ear, "I remember, in our past life, all these boys were your admirers. How about it, Nina? Now that the holiday's over and you're without the beauty pearl, you're still that unloved ugly duckling, huh?" I stood there calmly, my face expressionless behind thick black-framed glasses. I said, "Sister, having many suitors isn't necessarily a good thing." Willa had originally wanted to relish the look of utter defeat on my face, but upon hearing these words, she immediately became displeased. She took a step back, eyeing me coldly. After a moment, as if suddenly struck by a mischievous thought, she flashed me a malicious smile. The next second, she abruptly threw herself backward, tumbling down several steps before landing on the ground. Then, Willa held her ankle and said in a tearful voice, "Nina, I'm sorry. I know you resent me for taking your lead singer spot, but that was the teacher's decision, not my intention." I froze for a moment before realizing Willa was talking about the class choir performance. I had been the lead singer all along, but the teacher heard that school leaders would attend the performance, so Willa was temporarily chosen instead. The teacher apologized to me, saying, "Nina, I know you sing better, but stage presence is also important. Willa is more suitable for the spotlight than you. I actually don't care about this, but I didn't expect Willa to take it to heart. Well, Willa is determined to beat me, so of course she would remember every little milestone marking her victory. Now, she's sitting slumped at the stairwell, looking delicate but speaking loudly, drawing a crowd of classmates around her." The beauty pitifully collapsed on the ground, clutching her slender ankle, frowning with delicate brows, her eyes rimmed with a faint red as teardrops clung to her lashes, poised to fall yet lingering. This scene was akin to a weak woman holding her heart, utterly heartrending and endearing. Gradually, murmurs of accusation against me rose from the crowd. "Nina, if you want to be the lead singer, go tell the teacher yourself. Why blame Willa for it? You don't think that just because she's hurt, you can be the star again, do you? Are you so used to being the best that you get upset whenever someone takes something from you?" The chaotic words reached my ears as Willa looked at me with tear-filled eyes. If good-looking people are the protagonists of this world, then right now, passers-by are all speaking up for the beautiful yet tragic heroine. Soon, a tall boy emerged from the crowd. The school heartthrob, Kelvin. Kelvin had been Willa's secret crush since the very first day of school, but too many pretty girls liked Kelvin, and despite Willa handing him love letters several times, he always coldly rejected them. Yet, it was precisely this kind of aloof and handsome guy who, in my previous life after I obtained the beauty pearl, took the initiative to come to me, handing me the small cake he had bought and even asking if I could come watch him play basketball. How could this not drive Willa wild with jealousy? And now, Kelvin, who once said he would always like me, gave me a cold and disgusted glance. Then, he walked over to Willa and scooped her up into his arms. "I'll take you to the infirmary." The surrounding classmates all erupted into exaggerated cheers at this drama-like scene. Willa's face turned crimson, a mix of shyness and excitement making her already fair, rosy skin glow even more beautifully. Kelvin carried Willa towards the infirmary as the crowd gradually dispersed, leaving only me standing in the hallway, watching their retreating figures. Actually, there was a time when I thought about telling her the truth about the Pearl of Beauty. I wanted to tell her that the Pearl of Beauty was actually a pearl of misfortune. For every benefit you enjoy because of your beauty, you must pay 10 times the price. In my previous life, if Willa hadn't helped me return to the age of 18 in time, there was a high probability that I would have died tragically in Southeast Asia. But at this moment, watching her and Kelvin walk away, I decided to remain silent. Some consequences are better left for her to bear alone. Truth be told, I'm quite content with a life without the beauty pearl. In my previous life, my beauty brought me instant fame, but I quickly lost myself in the glitzy world of internet celebrity, and my academic performance plummeted at lightning speed. My uncle and aunt hoped I could quickly monetize my fame, so they booked countless commercial gigs for me, keeping me busy on advertising sets every day. Many wealthy people invited me to their dinner parties, treating young and beautiful girls like me as decorative accessories at the table. Looking back now, those days of wearing glamorous outfits and frequenting top-tier venues must have made Willa extremely envious. Late at night, she would scroll through the countless comments under my account. The praises like goddess-level beauty and fans' cheesy pickup lines probably filled her with deep regret that she wasn't the one who helped the elderly cleaner back then, but only I know what the other side of that life is. I failed the college entrance exam, and my uncle and aunt didn't let me go to university. The intense filming schedule and the online spread of sexual rumors left me with neurasthenia, relying on increasingly larger doses of medication to sleep every night. At the dinner parties of the wealthy, those middle-aged men took great pleasure in forcing me to drink, and when I was too drunk to resist, they would place their hands on my thighs. A famous director invited me to star in his movie, but along with the script came his hotel room key. My uncle and aunt knew exactly what would happen, yet they forced me to go, even drugging me to ensure I complied. Naturally, their biological daughter, Willa, knew nothing of this. She simply spent the money I earned, living a life of luxury in a grand villa, all while complaining about why she wasn't the one who became famous in this life. I will never let the tragedies of the past repeat themselves. I have come to realize that the benefits brought by beauty carry immense dangers. One misstep could send me tumbling into an abyss. While solid knowledge and skills may be hard-earned, they can provide me with a stable and fulfilling life. Thus, I devoted all my energy to studying. My academic performance was already strong, and now, free from other distractions, I could immerse myself even deeper in books. A week later at the choral performance, Willa stood at the center of the stage in a white tulle dress. When the pale blue stage lights shone on her, she looked like a white swan gliding across a lake. She couldn't carry a tune, so the teacher had pre-recorded her part for lip-syncing. Willa even wrapped thick bandages around her barely injured ankle, deliberately limping when bowing and exiting the stage. More moving than a swan is a swan with broken wings, and so, in an instant, all the accusations turned toward me. Willa struck while the iron was hot, and she began to spread some carefully crafted grievances. I was jealous of her beauty, so I kept making false accusations about her to our uncle and aunt, getting her punished. Her poor academic performance was also because I used many underhanded methods to sabotage her studies. After airing these complaints, Willa would say tearfully to everyone, "Even though Nina has treated me badly, I've never blamed her. After all, she's my sister." This scene instantly ignited the strongest protective instincts in the boys. Filled with righteous indignation, they vowed to punish me, the villain, for their delicate and innocent beauty. Thumbtacks and dead bugs started appearing on my seat. When I returned from the restroom, my backpack had already been thrown from the 4th floor. The school gate was vandalized with profanities in red paint, the large characters reading, "Nina is a filthy bitch, whoever bullied me the most viciously would win the beauty's favor," Willa would say to them with teary eyes, her voice soft. "Thank you for helping me, you're so kind." She turned her face and said to me with a light laugh, "Look, Nina, I don't even need to lift a finger to get back at you." Among all those who bullied me, Kelvin was the most relentless. In my past life, I once asked him what he liked about me, and he answered very seriously, "Nina, I love everything about you. Your personality, your talents, your character, I love it all." Not a single word about my appearance. In fact, my personality, talents, and character remain unchanged from my past life. Yet Kelvin had his brother shove me onto the bathroom tiles, pressing his basketball shoe against my hand. "If I find out you've bullied Willa again, I'll crush your joints." As the pain shot through me, I let out a bitter smile. "Do you like Willa, Kelvin?" Kelvin was taken aback for a moment, then replied coldly, "Of course, what do you like about her?" After a brief pause, Kelvin said, "Everything about her." I burst into laughter, nearly to the point of tears. "Sister, beauty is a veil. Whoever wears it cannot see the true world clearly." On the way home, Willa noticed my reddened, trampled hand. She asked me with a smile, "How does it feel, in your past life? I remember you were quite fond of Kelvin. What does it feel like to be betrayed by someone you once loved? Tell me all about it." She was eager to find joy in my suffering to balance the losses from her past life. I remained silent, merely lowering my gaze to glance at the beauty pearl on her wrist. Noticing my gaze, she sneered, "You wouldn't still be thinking of snatching the beauty pearl back, would you? You know it's useless now." Of course, I knew that once the beauty pearl recognized its master, no one else could take it away. The reason is simple. In her past life, Willa had tried to snatch it. She went to great lengths to steal the bead from me, but in the blink of an eye, it would return to my wrist. Now, the beauty bead has chosen to stay with her, and I can't take it away either. Truth be told, I don't even want to take it. I just noticed that amidst the pearl's vibrant colors, there seemed to be a black line, like a crack. It was the color of misfortune hidden within the beauty pearl, and now, it was growing darker. At that moment, Willa followed behind me and saw that what I pulled out from my backpack was Peking University's independent recruitment admission letter. In my past life, I never got to attend university. This time, I was determined to fulfill my dream. Yo, so you got the self-recommendation spot? Willa glanced mockingly at the admission letter in my hand, curling her lips indifferently. Well, without your golden finger, you'll just have to grind it out the hard way. By the time you graduate, you'll be stuck with a dead-end salary. Won't even match what I make in a day as an influencer. Willa was dead set on becoming famous, and her opportunity came sooner than expected. The school was recording an admissions promotional video, and due to her stunning performance in the choir, the principal remembered this girl with an outstanding image and specifically requested her to participate in the shoot. In the video, Willa wore her school uniform and tied her hair in a simple ponytail, which only accentuated her exquisitely beautiful face, as lovely as a dewy lotus bud in summer. After the admissions video was posted online, it quickly became a sensation. Willa was voted the top of the nation's 100 most beautiful schoolgirls, and her social media followers skyrocketed by 1 million overnight. Countless people came to her, talent scouts, agents, directors, brand representatives. Willa quickly threw herself into the influencer work of my past life, but she soon realized the job wasn't as glamorous or easy as it appeared on the surface. For brand endorsements, she had to stand in high heels for over 10 hours straight, maintaining the same smile at the perfect angle for the camera. Working on set is even tougher. Shooting underwater scenes during menstruation is standard practice, and there's the added risk of being harassed or threatened with casting couch demands by unscrupulous investors. Truth be told, none of this compares to the massive payouts. After all, countless others toil from dawn to dusk, enduring far greater hardships just to earn a living wage. But Willa isn't willing to endure even the slightest discomfort. In her mind, a beauty should be kept in a jar of honey, carefully pampered and protected. So she tearfully said to her uncle and aunt, "Working hard is not as good as marrying well. I don't want to work anymore. Rather than struggling like this, I should use my current fame to quickly marry into a wealthy family." Willa is their biological daughter, so naturally, they wouldn't exploit her the way they exploited me in my past life. Thus, her uncle and aunt agreed out of pity. Willa began carefully selecting among her suitors. If someone like Kelvin, the campus heartthrob, could still make her heart flutter before, men of that caliber could no longer stir even the slightest ripple in her heart now. After all, those pursuing her now include top-tier singers, rising stars, self-made entrepreneurs, and wealthy heirs born with silver spoons in their mouths. And I knew exactly who Willa would choose. Sure enough, it wasn't long before rumors of Willa's romance with Lucas Watson, the second son of a top luxury conglomerate, began trending. In the paparazzi footage, Lucas, who has always maintained a refined and dignified image, broke his usual demeanor by eagerly opening the car door and draping a coat over Willa. Holding her hand, he led her into a revolving restaurant for dinner, his gaze brimming with adoration the entire time. By then, I was already sitting in a classroom at Peking University. During a break from studying in the science building, I scrolled through news about Willa and Lucas. A classmate nearby leaned over and exclaimed enviously, "Wow, it's Lucas, top-tier rich second generation, a Yale graduate herself. Willa is so lucky." Someone nearby said sourly, "Sigh, this influencer has nothing but her looks. Lucas probably won't marry her, right?" They were quickly rebutted. "Wow, that's Willa we're talking about. She's stunning. Any man would want to marry her." Okay, look, the world never runs short of naive people. In my previous life, I was the one who became Lucas's girlfriend. On the day our scandal made it to the trending searches, Willa went berserk and smashed everything breakable in the house. She felt she had completely lost, because no matter how hard she tried, she could never marry a better man than Lucas in this lifetime. The relatives' predictions about marrying well, which she once wore as a badge of honor, now felt like a slap in the face. So when Lucas took me on a trip, Willa found a way to bring me back to 18. Although Willa had always treated me with malice, I actually owe her my thanks. After all, if it weren't for her, I might have really died in Southeast Asia at Lucas's hands. Because of this life-saving favor, I decided to give Willa one last warning. So, that summer vacation, when Willa was excitedly packing her things, saying she was going to live with Lucas at the Watson family's villa, I walked over to her. I said, "Human nature seeks profit, and the more powerful someone is, the less likely they are to be a fool." sister, beauty isn't actually a scarce resource in the face of immense capital. Think about it. Why would Lucas marry you? The moment I finished speaking, with a sudden slap, Willa unexpectedly struck me across the face. She shrieked, "Nina, who do you look down on? If Lucas would marry you, why wouldn't he marry me?" Actually, I really wanted to tell her that Lucas didn't want to marry me either. In my past life, I had always been suspicious of Lucas's motives, but at that time, several of my brand endorsements were from Lucas's family. Since it concerned my career, I couldn't immediately reject Lucas. Such a major client, Lucas didn't insist, but simply invited me on a trip to Thailand, while also making preparations for the upcoming Southeast Asian-themed photo shoot. I agreed. By the time I realized something was wrong and tried to escape, it was already too late. A needle was jabbed into my neck, knocking me out instantly. I was tied up and loaded onto the Watson family's private jet, then flown straight to Southeast Asia. Upon arrival, I was stripped naked and placed on the altar. The more successful the business, the more superstitious the person. The old man of the Watson family was no exception. He had cancer but didn't believe the hospital's diagnosis. He went to Thailand to consult a familiar master, who said it was caused by a malevolent spirit. If the spirit could be exorcised, the cancer would heal on its own. The medicinal catalyst for exorcising ghosts is a virgin who possesses beauty, fame, and wealth. Using her blood can drive away the ghosts. So Lucas began actively searching for his father. To be honest, I don't think Yale graduate Lucas truly believed this explanation, but what Lucas wanted wasn't to cure his father's cancer. What he wanted was for his father to feel his filial devotion. After all, old man Watson lived over 70 years, had 3 legal wives in total, fathered 7 children, and even more illegitimate children from affairs outside. Among the many children, Lucas was not particularly favored. Now that old man Watson has cancer, Lucas must race against time to move his father with his efforts. So Lucas gave it his all and finally found such a girl, beautiful, famous, and still a virgin. Kidnapping her to obtain her blood was, of course, an extremely dangerous endeavor, requiring countless follow-up measures, with the risk of getting himself entangled in the mess. Lucas wanted to prove to his father, "To cure you, I'm willing to take any risk." As the knife cut into my body, I heard old man Watson ask Lucas, "If this girl goes to the media after returning to her country, it could cause a major PR crisis." Lucas's voice turned cold and ruthless. "I understand, don't worry, her disappearance will become an unsolved case. In short, he would silence her permanently." Old man Watson smiled contentedly. I struggled desperately, but to no avail, watching helplessly as my blood continued to flow. Blood loss plunged me into unconsciousness, and when I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in that shopping mall. Willa was kicking the cleaning lady right in front of me. With the days of having narrowly escaped disaster, I watched as she snatched away the pearl of beauty. At that moment, Willa shook her hand and picked up her suitcase. She declared triumphantly, "Nina, if you dare come to me with such words again, the first thing I'll do after marrying Lucas is throw you into the bay to feed the fish." Clutching my stinging cheek, I silently stepped aside. "Go ahead, sis," I whispered. "Good luck." After Willa moved into the Watson family's villa, she posted about her luxurious daily life on social media every day. The chef specially prepared a nutritious meal for me, customized just for me at every meal. I told him not to go to such trouble, but he said it's no trouble at all. I deserve the best. The picture shows various foods served in exquisite tableware. I watched silently and sighed inwardly. In my past life, I had also eaten these foods. Lucas told me they were specially customized nutritional meals for me, but in reality, this was because the Thai witch doctor said the offerings to exorcise the ghosts for old man Watson needed to be absolutely pure. Therefore, the offerings couldn't consume ordinary grains for 49 days before the ritual and had to eat specially prepared food to maintain the purity of their blood. In my previous life, I resisted until the end and refused to eat. So Lucas had people hold me down and force-feed me. So now, as I look at the exquisite food photos Willa posted, I only feel waves of nausea. But I can't be bothered with Willa anymore. I have more important things to do. I'm currently applying to a company, seeking to work there as an intern. This company isn't the industry leader, but its founder is named Stella. Stella is Lucas's half-sister and one of the most accomplished among old man Watson's many children. She started her own business a few years ago, and though the company is young, it has already shown unstoppable momentum. Since Lucas's mother, as the other woman, indirectly caused the death of Stella's mother, the relationship between the siblings can be described as irreconcilable. My intuition tells me that Stella can help me fulfill many of my wishes. However, getting into Stella's company wasn't that easy. My resume disappeared without a trace. A classmate told me that Stella doesn't like fresh graduates, so they basically don't offer internship opportunities to students. I'm feeling a bit anxious. There's still nearly 2 years until graduation. If I wait until then, Lucas's ghost banishing ritual will have long been completed, and going to find Stella would be pointless. A classmate noticed how much I wanted to join Stella's company and suggested, although Stella doesn't like current students, there's a senior from our department who apparently managed to get an internship there last month. Maybe you could ask her. Though she's quite aloof and doesn't help with just anything, I quickly asked my classmate, "What's that senior's name?" "Teresa." I found Teresa. Surprisingly, Teresa, who was rumored to be somewhat aloof, immediately agreed to help me with an internal referral. After hearing my request, I expressed my endless gratitude, but she merely adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses and said nonchalantly, "If you become rich and powerful, don't forget me." Somehow, I sensed a peculiar depth in her tone, and so, half a month later, I successfully entered Stella's company as an intern. As the big boss, Stella's office was on the top floor of the company, and interns like me weren't allowed to enter, but after observing her daily routine, I finally managed to intercept her in the pantry one Friday night during overtime. Stella was dressed in a dark gray suit, her sharp eyeliner exuding authority. She glanced at me and said distantly, "You're the new intern, right? What do you need?" Her presence was formidable, but I wasn't intimidated. I spoke neither humbly nor arrogantly. "Stella, I'd like to participate in the H-City project." In my past life, although I had little direct contact with Stella, I remembered that the H-City project was her greatest success. Thanks to favorable policies and a black swan event, it achieved record-breaking revenue within a year, and all participants achieved financial freedom. Hearing my words, Stella scoffed and didn't even glance at me. The H-City project is the company's priority this year. The rules state that participants must be senior elites with at least 5 years of experience. Interns aren't qualified to join. As Stella was about to turn and leave, I spoke up, "Stella, what if I knew Lucas's secret?" Stella's retreating figure suddenly froze. She turned her head, narrowed her eyes, her gaze as sharp as a hawk's. I wasn't afraid, but calmly met her gaze. After a long while, Stella whispered, "Go ahead and say it." Stella had always disliked Lucas and looked down on him, especially Lucas's act of dating Willa was seen by Stella as tasteless and beneath contempt, but she never expected there to be such a big secret behind it. "This is the exchange I want to make with Stella. Stella, the current valuation of the Mirage project is 60 million, but if the ritual where Lucas treats your grandfather's illness goes smoothly, your grandfather's fondness for him will undoubtedly increase significantly." I didn't continue, but Stella naturally understood. If the ceremony proceeds smoothly, the distribution of Old Man Watson's inheritance will definitely be altered, significantly increasing the proportion Lucas would receive. Given the vastness of the Watson family's fortune, the amount of money involved would far exceed 60 million. Stella only remained silent for a moment before saying to me, "There will be a small family dinner at my house on Sunday evening, held at Lucas's villa. I'll take you in as my personal assistant. You'll have to prove to me that what you're saying is true." On Sunday evening, Stella indeed took me to the Watson family dinner. I just didn't expect that. Besides me, she also brought another personal assistant. That was my senior Teresa. I've always had a strange feeling about Teresa. Although she was only 1 year ahead of me in school and also an inexperienced student, she didn't seem to work very hard, often arriving late, leaving early, or even disappearing during work hours. But Stella seems to hold her in high regard. I even overheard her privately calling Teresa, "teacher." Teresa was dressed as plainly as ever today, a white shirt paired with dark blue suit pants, with gold-rimmed glasses, looking every bit the part of the chairman's secretary. While Stella was exchanging pleasantries with her relatives, Teresa quietly approached me and said without any change in expression, "Stella asked me to assist you. First there will be dinner, and after dinner there will be a dessert time when everyone will be free to move around. We can use this opportunity to search this villa." I nodded and huddled behind Stella with Teresa, trying to make myself as inconspicuous as possible. The villa was large, with chefs, maids, and assistants coming and going, so we didn't stand out. However, I didn't expect that Willa would still notice me. Willa clearly assumed the role of the lady of the villa. She appeared arm in arm with Lucas and sneered the moment she saw me. "Oh, isn't this my cousin? What, even after getting into Peking University, you still end up working as a waitress? Lucas stood by Willa's side, dressed in a sharp suit, his handsome features giving him the air of a refined gentleman. He glanced at Stella, who looked displeased, then patted Willa's arm and smoothly intervened with a faint smile. "This is my sister Stella's assistant." "An assistant? Isn't that just the same as a waitress?" Willa sat down at the table and tilted her chin up. "Pour me some tea." I didn't move. Willa turned to look at me, her brows furrowing as her voice grew shrill. "Did you hear me? Pour the tea," her domineering attitude clearly embarrassed Lucas as well, but sacrificial offerings were hard to come by, and Lucas didn't want to clash with Willa at this moment, so he stood by, feigning indifference. All eyes in the hall instantly turned to me. I hesitated only for a brief moment before stepping forward, respectfully pouring the hot black tea into a porcelain cup and handing it to Willa. Willa snorted, curling her lips, refusing to take it. She was giving me a cold shoulder, deliberately punishing me in front of so many people. The porcelain cup was scalding hot, and my hand burned with excruciating pain. Finally, unable to hold on any longer, I let go, and the cup spilled its boiling hot tea onto Willa's little dress. Willa let out a scream and jumped up. "Nina, are you fucking trying to die?" Before her words had even faded, Teresa rushed forward in a flash. She steadied Willa and scolded me sharply. "What's wrong with you? Hurry up and help Miss to apply some medicine." I feigned a flustered panic and quickly obeyed Teresa's orders, taking hold of Willa on either side. Willa absolutely didn't want to be supported by us, yet Teresa and my 4 hands clamped onto her like iron tongs, unceremoniously hauling her out of the hall. Faintly, I could hear Stella behind us hypocritically apologizing to Lucas, whose face was ashen with silence. Clearly, Willa's earlier screaming and cursing had thoroughly embarrassed him, so he didn't follow us either. Teresa and I helped Willa into a secluded room. Teresa held down the wailing Willa and barked at me, "Hurry up and get the medicine." Understanding, I turned and ran. It's dinner time now, and everyone is gathered in the hall, making it the perfect opportunity for me to search the villa. Drawing from my experience of living in this villa for several months in my previous life, I headed straight for the basement. That should be where Lucas stores items related to ghost banishing rituals. As I crossed the garden and was about to rush to the basement, I suddenly bumped into someone. I was about to apologize, but when I clearly saw the other person's face, I froze in shock. It was an old woman with gray hair and wrinkled skin. She was the elderly cleaner who possessed the beauty pearl. Why would she appear in the Watson family's villa? The old woman staggered when I bumped into her, looking displeased. She frowned at me, and I quickly apologized, explaining that I was searching for medicine. The elderly lady pointed me to the pharmacy, and after thanking her, I immediately rushed there. After getting the burn ointment, I returned to the garden. Only after confirming the old lady had gone to the hall did I finally touch my wildly pounding heart. Fortunately, in this lifetime, I had never helped the janitor, so she didn't remember me well. Plus, my appearance had changed significantly since high school, so she didn't recognize me. But this brief encounter made me realize everything related to Beauty Pearl was likely part of a conspiracy. While no one was around, I quickly made my way to the basement. The basement had a password, but since I had been there in my previous life, I knew it was a combination of Lucas's birthday and phone number. After entering the password, I pushed open the heavy door and stepped into the basement. As soon as I entered, the room full of jewelry nearly blinded me. A large amount of gold was cast into the shape of little demons, arranged in rows. Huge pieces of glass-grade jadeite were carved into the shape of Buddhist amulets, inscribed with runes I couldn't understand at all. These were all items needed for the exorcism ritual. When the time came, they would be invited onto the altar and placed around the sacrificial offerings. At the same time, the basement was filled with a foul, fishy stench. Rows of porcelain jars lined up against the wall, emitting a foul, fishy stench. I lifted the lid of the nearest one. Inside was an entire vat of soybeans soaked in blood. The next jar contained lotus seeds similarly steeped in blood. Some of this blood is from black dogs, some from roosters, legendary substances used to ward off evil spirits. If Willa knew that the nutritious meals she consumed daily were made from these ingredients, she'd probably vomit up her bile. I took out my phone, photographed each of these items one by one, and sent the pictures to Stella. Finally, when I lifted the lid of the innermost porcelain jar, I suddenly froze. Half of this jar contains high-quality Tahitian pearls, the other half is filled with slippery, slimy fish eyes. The two are mixed together, with the mucus from the fish eyes soaking the pearls. They are roughly the same size, eventually forming a strange, indistinguishable texture. This texture is very familiar to me. The pearl of beauty. This is the pearl of beauty. I don't know what kind of dark sorcery this is, but it sent a shiver down my spine, yet before I could even finish that shiver, footsteps sounded at the door. I suddenly looked up, and a pair of leather shoes appeared in my elevated line of sight. They were Lucas's leather shoes. He had entered. I quickly covered the porcelain jar and hid behind it. Lucas walked in, and I watched as his leather shoes came to a stop right in front of me. Then, I clearly saw Lucas lean forward, peering behind the porcelain jar. In the blink of an eye, a voice suddenly came from the doorway. "Mr. Lucas, are you there?" Lucas instinctively turned his head, and in that moment, I lay down and rolled behind a nearby shelf. Lucas didn't want to let the other person in and strode over quickly. "I'm here, what's the matter?" The woman's voice at the door was efficient and clear. "Stella has asked me to invite you to the tea room for a chat to discuss whether you'd like to participate in the investment for the H-City project." It was Teresa, Lucas replied impatiently. "Got it, I need to handle some personal matters, I'll be there in 10 minutes. While they were talking, I had already moved from behind the shelf to the door and silently slipped out of the basement. Lucas had his back to me, while Teresa was facing me. She saw that I had already withdrawn and nodded to Lucas, saying, "Then please hurry, our Stella has other arrangements tonight." After Lucas returned to the basement, Teresa and I met up outside. We hid in the shadows of the garden and saw Lucas standing anxiously by the basement door, as if waiting for someone. Moments later, someone indeed came to meet him. It was the old janitor. She approached Lucas, her voice aged yet calm. "Mr. Lucas, did you need something from me?" Lucas anxiously puffed on his cigarette. "Master, I keep feeling uneasy, like the secret in the basement might be discovered. Can we move the ritual forward?" The old janitor pondered for a moment before nodding. "Then I'll make arrangements." Teresa looked at my dazed expression and whispered, "What's wrong?" I mumbled, "I understand." The conspiracy had begun much earlier than I had imagined. The Watsons had already made their appearance at the very start of the story. This elderly woman was actually the master responsible for the exorcism ritual. Back then, she disguised herself as a cleaner, but in reality, she was scouting for suitable young girls. Teresa nodded at my words and said, "You've finally figured it out." I stared at her in shock. "What do you mean? Isn't she just a random senior? Why does it feel like she knows more than I do?" Teresa took off her glasses and wiped them. "Here's the thing, I'm a businesswoman who can help clients fulfill wishes that normally couldn't be realized. Your cousin Willa is my client. In her past life, she came to me and made a wish for rebirth. Our rule is that we must understand the real reason why a client wants to be reborn, otherwise we won't provide the service. So Willa told me about the beauty pearl. As I listened to her describe the beauty pearl, I roughly guessed there was some Southeast Asian dark magic involved. I murmured, "So you just..." Teresa nodded. "So I decided to get involved. After all, the Watsons are truly wealthy. Each of the Watson children has their own master. Lucas's master is this old lady. Stella's master." Teresa pointed to herself. "Well, that would be me, and here I thought she was just an intern like me." I asked Teresa, "Since you knew the beauty pearl involved dark magic, why didn't you stop Willa?" Teresa shook her head. "Everyone has their own karma. You can't interfere arbitrarily. If you force interference, not only might there not be a good outcome, but you could also end up bearing the karmic debt yourself." Willa's request was rebirth, and I helped her achieve it. She obtained the beauty pearl, so this service is concluded, she said. As for the outcome, naturally, she must bear it herself. Willa's outcome arrived swiftly. Lucas and the old woman moved up the exorcism ritual, and she was taken to Southeast Asia. On the massive altar, Willa was tied to a wooden frame, trembling uncontrollably yet immobilized by heavy doses of anesthesia. Opposite her stood a massive spirit banner, fluttering fiercely in the wind. The old woman stood behind this spirit banner, and it was precisely because the banner blocked the line of sight that in my previous life, I had failed to see her face and did not realize she was the Thai master invited by Old Man Watson. As the knife tip sliced into Willa's body, blood flowing onto the rows of amulets on the altar, the old woman began to perform a strange dance behind the spirit banner. However, gunshots suddenly rang out in the distance. It was Stella who brought the police. As the ritual was about to succeed, Lucas, driven to desperation, attempted to engage in a shootout with the police but was shot in the shoulder and subsequently arrested. Old Man Watson, still in his hospital bed, was also taken away by the police. However, in the midst of the chaos, everyone suddenly realized that the old woman and Willa had disappeared. Along with their disappearance, a piece of glass-type violet jadeite, worth hundreds of millions, was also missing from the altar. Teresa and I had been following behind Stella. When we noticed the jadeite was gone, Teresa suddenly frowned. "This is bad," she whispered. that jadeite was likely the core of this ritual formation. If the old woman took it with her, the ceremony can still be completed. Old man Watson burst into loud laughter. It was just now that he took advantage of the chaos to have his driver and personal bodyguard ensure the old woman and the sacrificial offering got away at all costs. As long as the ritual could be completed, his cancer would be cured. After all, the charge of attempted murder would fall entirely on Lucas, and old man Watson had every opportunity to distance himself from it, so as long as his illness could be cured, he didn't care about anything else. Lucas's eyes burned with fury, realizing that despite his single-minded devotion to curing his father, he had ultimately been discarded as a pawn. Teresa glanced at Lucas, who was shouting curses, and old man Watson, who was laughing heartily. She picked up her phone and made a call. "Hey, Jack, are you there yet? They probably haven't gone far. Send me the location as soon as you track it down." After hanging up, Teresa somehow pulled out a motorcycle and hopped on. "Let's go," she said, putting on her own helmet and tossing one to me. I froze. "What for?" "The confrontation between humans is over," she said. "Next comes the battle between gods. If you want to see, then follow me." By the time Teresa and I arrived at the beach, it was already too late. Lying on the sand were Watson's driver and bodyguard, knocked unconscious by Teresa's helper, a guy named Jack, but Jack was also a step too late. A complex magic circle was drawn on the beach, with the violet jade placed right at its center. The ritual succeeded. The woman's excited voice echoed across the sea under the night sky for a long time. A month later, Teresa went to visit old man Watson. She told old man Watson the ritual worked. Old man Watson's aged eyes sparkled with an unprecedented brilliance. He laughed wildly. For an elderly patient, no amount of gold or silver is as important as his health. Therefore, he spared no expense in purchasing those rare jewels for the ritual array, all in hopes of curing his terminal illness. Teresa cast a pitying glance at old man Watson and whispered, "This ritual was completed a month ago. Have you felt any improvement in your health since then?" Old man Watson was suddenly stunned. Teresa sighed. "No." "Right." Old man Watson trembled. "Impossible. That master couldn't have lied to me. She truly knows dark magic." Teresa nodded. "Yes, that old woman is indeed a very powerful Asian from Southeast Asia, meaning a sorcerer. But the problem is, this ritual wasn't meant to serve you at all. It was meant to serve herself." Old man Watson's mouth fell open. Teresa said sorrowfully, "The true name of this ritual is soul transference." Yes, on that day when they arrived, the person who excitedly shouted, "The ritual succeeded," wasn't the old woman, it was Willa. There she stood in the middle of the beach, dancing and gesturing wildly, constantly caressing her own fair and smooth body. Meanwhile, the old woman, beside her, touched her own aged skin, let out a loud wail, and then fainted. Teresa looked at the ashen-faced old man Watson. "Do you understand now? That old woman's true purpose was to use this magic array to live again in a young and beautiful body. From the very beginning of cultivating the beauty pearl, this was always her goal, but because the array required an astronomical amount of jade as the soul transfer stone, something beyond her financial means, she sought you out. The entire time, you were merely paving the way for someone else's benefit. Mr. Watson, you've been a shrewd businessman for most of your life, and now, you've lost your family fortune, sacrificed your own son, all just to help a stranger regain her beauty. I'm afraid you'll have to stay in the intensive care unit, waiting for cancer to drain your life away." Old man Watson trembled all over, his mouth gaping like a suffocating fish. Finally, his eyes rolled back, and he passed out. Teresa showed no pity. She stood up and left. Walking outside, the sunlight was just right, as if all the schemes and intrigues of Southeast Asia were nothing but a dream. Perhaps life is just like this. Everyone harbors their own beautiful dreams, but there always comes a moment of awakening. In this story, apart from Nina, who was saved and, through her own efforts, lived an increasingly better life, eventually joining the Mirage Project and becoming Stella's right-hand woman, everyone else faced the shattering of their dreams, just like Willa, who desired beauty but ultimately only gained an aged body, just like Lucas, who sought his father's favor but was ultimately abandoned by him, just like old man Watson, he wanted health, but in the end, it was all for nothing. Just like that old woman, she spent so much effort and finally obtained Willa's body, but then she encountered Jack, the soul hunter. Jack picked up that violet jade and said, "This stone is indeed perfect for sealing living souls." Then, the man who appeared to be only in his 20s narrowed his eyes, looked at the 80-year-old woman, and sighed. Young people must accept punishment when they do wrong. there is always someone better. And the sky beyond the sky, the old woman used the power of ghosts and gods to satisfy her desires, but in the end, she was subdued by an even stronger force of ghosts and gods. Jack sealed the old woman's soul into that piece of jade. Thus, the world only knew that Willa had gone on a trip to Southeast Asia with the young master of the Watson family, only for the Watson heir to be arrested for a crime, while Willa, whether from injury or extreme shock, fell into a prolonged coma, with the old woman and her dark arts sealed away. The effects of the beauty pearl crumbled completely. Willa's beauty began to fade, deteriorating even beyond her appearance. Before using the pearl, her parents wept by her hospital bed, seeking out renowned doctors far and wide, but to no avail. Actually, it's just because there's no soul in that body right now. Willa's soul is currently in the old woman's body, and due to her madness, she was locked up in a mental hospital in Thailand. So, when do you plan to return Willa's soul to her body? In the small shop at the end of the alley, Teresa asked Jack. Jack was sipping on an ice-cold orange soda while reading a book. He waved his hand casually and said, "Maybe forever, maybe tomorrow." After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.